Rick Ross, he's one of the biggest artists in the world. He can buy jewelry from anybody, but he's wanting me to do his piece. That led to me doing a piece for 50 Cent. They'll pay 10 times what it's worth. I end up scamming people out of millions of dollars doing that. I got 30 racks underneath my son's bassinet, 30 racks in cereal boxes.
Right.
I got 50,000 bucks in a Monopoly box. So the next morning, my son's mom wakes me up shaking me. People are banging on the door. They said it's the police. Bro, as soon as I go to the door, my whole life changed at that moment. My name's Campo, born in Tyler, Texas. Grew up like typical, Texan kid. My mom and dad were both there. Went to a good school, just a public school. I guess what kind of sent me down the path that I went down is like, dude, I would just see my parents busting their ass just to like pay for a house for us to stay in and clothe us.
The bare minimum.
Yeah,
right.
like bare minimum. But my pops is working from waking up at 3 a.m. He's getting home at 7, 8 p.m., showering, going to sleep, waking back up. And I remember like that always implemented something in my mind to where I'm like, damn, I love my parents. I love my pops. He's my best friend, but I'm like, I don't want that,
Yeah.
Like I don't want to struggle. I don't want to worry. And that's kind of what put me down the path of, how I got to where I ended up in prison. But yeah, I mean, I was a okay kid, I'd get in a little bit of shit here and there, weed was always my thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like around 10th grade, 11th grade, that's really when I started going hard. The guy that, was selling weed at school, and it kind of all just derailed. See, I played football. That was my original goal in life was, man, I'm going to play football, right? So one day after school, we had football practice, and one of my other friends was like, hey, you want to go smoke some weed and skip football practice? And I was like, hell yeah. So I remember we went down, because the high school, there was a gas station at the end of the hill. And so my boy, he already had a blunt rolled. And so we're smoking out behind the gas station. And then like one of my other friends, his older brother pulled up. And so we were like, hey man, give us a ride, and we're 16, 15, high as shit. And like I'm in the back of his brother's truck, right? Just sitting in it. Well, I go to get out of his truck, and like I put one leg over the tailgate, and the dude thought it would be hilarious to like gas and then brake, right? I was out of there. I ended up flipping off the back of the truck, landed on my neck, like the whole side, like my face was all covered in blood, and I just snapped my shoulder, like all the way out of there. Then I had to make the call, while I'm just bleeding. All my friends are running in the gas station, like adults that are pumping gas are running over to us. And so one of my friends called my mom and was like, bro, I was telling my friend, don't call my mom, bro. Do not call my mom, And so he called her. And dude, like I only lived like 5 minutes from the high school. When I tell you, it was like the street it was on was like 35 miles an hour. When I tell you I can hear my mom's Cadillac hit the corner, and I hear like, and she fucking pulls into the gas station, slams on her brakes, get out. And she's just like, what the what are you doing? What? And I'm just like, oh, she's like, why aren't you at football practice? And so I'm just like trying not to cry, because probably what hurt more is my mom just getting on my ass in front of all my friends.
Right.
And like, so I end up going to the ER. They do x-rays. So my shoulder, I don't know all the science behind it, but your shoulder is kind of held in like that. Mm-hmm. And like, so basically I broke all the little prongs around it. And then my shoulder was like, you could like see the bone. It didn't break the skin. So I was in a sling. They said it, which that probably, now that I'm thinking about it, saying it out loud, that's probably what started my love for pain pills too. Because, I'm like 16 and they're giving me hydrocodones and all sorts of shit. But, so they tell me, hey, you're good. Just give it time to heal and you'll be able to play football again. So I finally heal. A couple months later, I get back in football practice, because like when I played football, I mean, I wasn't the best, but I mean, I was a starter. I was always, I was a lineman. I was a big old boy, so it's like, but I was like, man, this is my path. This is what I want to do. And then I just wasn't the same. And then I'd get hit and my shoulder would always hurt. And then I went and got x-rayed again. And they're like, oh yeah. Like, cause I got hit one time real bad and it's kind of slipped out of place again.
Right.
And they were like, nah, it's over for you. So, I mean, I remember that being like devastating to me, being like 16 and all my homeboys were going to football practice and they all go this way and I got to go to PE. You know what I'm saying? I got to go to PE and I remember just being so defeated, right? So then I just kind of started going full force on the stuff,
Where are you getting it? Like, how do you...
Bro, this is what's crazy. I was thinking about this too. As a 15, 16-year-old kid,
right,
I was in places that I shouldn't have been. Like, I would tell my mom I'm going to a friend's house, and I'm really at like some 38-year-old barber's house or something that's cutting hair, selling crack, selling, and I'm just like, man, but I'm thinking, what the fuck was going on? What were these grown-ass men doing, just letting like 15, 16-year-olds hang out there and smoke while they sell crack and cut hair, But man, it was just so easy to like go out there and just get whatever. And at that time, like an ounce of swag in like 2003 was like $40, $50.
Right.
But, I just met older people. And so I'd buy the ounce for $40, $50. And then I'm selling it to all the other 16-year-olds I go to school with. And I'm making $200, $300 on a zip. And when you're 16 with no bills, it was great. Free money.
$200 a week is, you're the man.
Yeah, it was great.
I was going to say, when you said that going to, places you shouldn't have been, like, I forget who, we were interviewed that guy the other day, and he was talking about places like, everything he's saying is like 12 years. I was 12, I was 13, I was 14. He's like, and now, of course, he's got like 2 or 3 daughters. He said, I think about my daughters. Like, I can't believe I was doing the things and where I was. He's like, and I think about my daughter who's 13, like, he's like, who has no concept of anything that I went through. He's like, I can't imagine her being put in the positions that I was put in.
That's pretty much like, because I've got a son and I just had a daughter about 6 months ago, but my son's 10, and I think like, I hope this guy doesn't do any of the shit that I did, and I also, another thing I think of from the perspective of like a parent, I'm just like, now that I'm grown with my own kid, I think back and I'm like, damn, I don't even know how my parents slept at night, just like, and I'm sure, like my parents, they're really, even though I was doing all this off, like my parents they're really good parents. They're really caring. My mom is pretty stern. My dad, he ended up getting caught up in my case. I'll tell you about that. But he was very strict, but he wasn't around because he worked so much. Yeah. It was easier to get away with shit, but he was very big on like, you go to school, you get a job, you work 15 hours a day, you come, like that's just your purpose, But watching him do it, I'm like, man, fuck that. But I'd be hanging out with these guys and just like kind of buying ounces here and there. Another thing that kind of fueled all that, because I ended up getting thrown out of school and I had to go to an alternative school, but not really because of my behavior. I wasn't like a bad kid. I was actually class clown in high school. It's like I was respectful to the teacher, stuff like that. But back in like I said, this is like 02, 03. I was really big on burning CDs and burning DVDs. And I was like the DVD CD guy at school. So people would walk up to me and give me a list and they'd be like, hey, these are the songs I want on it. And I'd go home and hit up BearShare or Kazaa or something and burn them CDs. And that was my whole hustle. And, so I would always have, and these were when the bootlegs were like a guy's in the theater with a camcorder and it's all rocky. But I'd go to school every morning and just have tons of bootleg DVDs. So this one kid who I had really no ties to, he was a grade younger. I knew his older brother. He ended up getting busted at school with a porno DVD. I never burnt porno. I didn't sell any of that type of shit. So he's in the principal's office and they're like, well, where did you get this from? And he was like, oh, I got it from Campo. He's at the high school. He's in 9th grade. So I'm just in the middle of class. My backpack is full of DVDs and movies and CDs. And the cop and the principal come and they're like, we need him right now. And I'm like, what's going on? I walk in there, I sit down. My mom's there. My dad's there. If my dad's there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if he had to leave from work, I'm like, oh shit. I was thinking like something's going on, like somebody snitched on me. So there's about the weed or something like that. And they got like the principal of the alternative school sitting there too. And so they tell my parents, like, your son is selling pornographic DVDs. And my mom was just like, so, and I'm like, I swear to God, Mom, I am not selling DVDs. And like,
they unzip your bag.
Dude, well, yeah, pretty much. So like, all the CDs, I didn't have anything wrote on them, but there was one copy of Too Fast, Too Furious. It was in movie theaters at that time. And like, I'm like, no, I don't know these people. I'm just holding that for somebody. I'm not going to tell you who I'm holding it for, all this shit. So they're like, we're about to go get a TV with a DVD player and we're going to roll it in here. And if that plays, you're going to be, because I told them, oh, they're just blanks. They're blanks. That's what I kept saying. So they go and they get the TV with the DVD player, and the cop and the principal and the alternative person were like, Mr. and Mrs. Campos, we need to speak to you outside. So they left the DVD right there. So they're outside talking, and I pick up the DVD and I just start scratching it on anything that I can. And like, so I set it back down. They come in there and then they put the DVD in. And it says Universal, and then it just cuts blue. And I'm just like, man, I told you, they're setting me up. You know, they're setting me up, but they still ended up kicking me out of school. I had to go to this like REACH program where I have to like graduate at my own pace and shit. But
have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement toward better habits, led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume.
I've been so tempted to buy one of these. So it's just like you're inhaling flavored air and there's no nicotine.
Then what is it?
It says no nicotine, no vapor, just delicious flavored air.
I'm always dieting, right? I'm always fighting with my weight, but it's a struggle. Like, you know, some people have like addictions, like listen, food, like I don't have any addiction. I don't have any habit. So eating is a major issue. Like I can't just, you know, I'll think, oh, I'll go ahead and have a little of this and I eat it. Boom. Next thing you know, it's the whole pint of ice cream. I'm just bored.
Exactly.
I'm not even hungry.
You're trying to preoccupy your mind.
It also has some type of clicker. Look on one of the sides. It's supposed to be kind of like a fidget thing.
Oh. Badass.
Well, they bundled everything into this thing, right?
They really did. So you're able to drop the bad habits. You got a fidget spinner, and you got a badass base to put.
Look at this.
I'm going to get one of these.
You got crisp mint. We got, is this cinnamon hearts?
Smell that. It smells like you just peeled an orange.
Oh, yeah. That does smell good.
It does. You know, that's actually pretty nice. You know, it's like...
Is it smoke?
No. You just get to taste the air.
Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use the code Matthew Cox to get your free Fume base when you order the Journey Pack. It's the all-new magnetic stand for your Fume pack. Head to TryFume, that's tryfum.com, and use the code Matthew Cox or scan the QR code on the screen to get your free Fume base when you order the Journey Pack today.
Get out of high school. I was like, my mom's like, if you're going to live here, you need to, and keep in mind, I'm still selling weed and DVDs the whole time. And she's like, if you're going to live here, you either get a job or you go to college, right?
How old are you?
18.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were still like 16 years old.
No.
I was like,
well, I was really like, I was about like 17 and a half.
Although 16, you can get a job. If you're not going to school full time, then you need to get a job.
But see, the thing is, like, my mom knew that I always had money, but she didn't know that, like, by the time I'm 18, which even though it's not big money, like I'm 18, I've got $4,000 or $5,000 with no bills. You know, that I've just been saving up from selling weed and DVDs and shit like that. So I'm like, I'm not going to get a job. You know, like I've already got a job. You know, so I apply for FAFSA, right?
What's that?
It's like college loans, right?
Yeah.
So it's like school loans. So I sign up for it just to see, because I'm like, I'm not going to spend my money to go to college. I'll spend the government's money.
Right.
So I'm just thinking that I went to a junior college, Tyler Junior College, which I didn't graduate. I don't even think I got a credit. I was there like 3 years just fucking off. But like, because man, I started just meeting more people to sell weed to. And then I started meeting guys that had better weed and just making contacts. And my barber, who, I won't drop his name. I love the guy that I'd be hanging out at his crib when I was 14, 15. I end up seeing him up there, and it's like, I'm like, damn, you go. He's like, yeah, you want to skip class and go smoke? I'm like, hell yeah. So, but I signed up for FAFSA, and then one day I get a letter in the mail and it's like, you've been approved for FAFSA, and they're giving me like $14,000. So like this shit blows my mind, right? Because I'm just like, man, I got a couple racks, but $14,000. So boom, the check hits. My school, because when I filled out the application, I had put that like I'm paying for school, that I have to pay for housing, that I have to pay. You can check all these things and it makes your amount go up. So I just maxed it out. I mean, keep in mind, I can't remember off the top of my head, so don't quote me, but TJC was probably like $2,000 a semester. These people gave me like 14 grand.
Right.
So it's like, but I said that I had to pay for everything. And so and they send you a debit card and the money's just on the debit card. Mm-hmm. So every day, and dude, my mom used to like watch me go to school and like call me. Sometimes would like pull up to make sure I was at the campus because she knew I was fucking off. But every day I would go and take the max out of the ATM every day. So out of that 14 grand, they just covered the school, and then I just pocketed the rest, right? And that opened up a whole nother can of worms, So. And also going on at this time, one of my best friends, God rest his soul, C. Rich, that was like my partner in crime. You know what I'm saying? He ended up dying of a super rare disease called good pastures disease. It happens to like 1 in 3 million people. And like it picks an organ, attacks it, and you got 6 months, a year type shit. But me and him, we really jumped off the porch together. Like, he's the one that put me on, which I didn't have a big period of doing this, but I had one point of my life, like around 18, 19, 20, where I was just selling anything, ecstasy, but not like in huge amounts. Like, because when I ended up linking up with, like, we had always been friends through school. When we really just started hustling hard together, he was already, he was selling and anything that made money, So like we kind of got to the point where we would combine our cash together type of thing. So we find out he works with this guy. This is when I really started making money, like around 19, 20 years old. Like, he met this guy. I don't know if they have the restaurants out here, but it's called Bennigan's. I think they're shut down now. Right. My buddy worked at Bennigan's, and there was this other guy who would always have pain pills, hydrocodones, Oxycontin or oxycodone, and he would have the Xanax bars too. And like, and back in my day, they were like $3 a piece. They were super cheap back then. Right. And like, but he would always just have thousands, right? And my boy C. Rich asked him, how much, or like, how are you getting this many? And he was like, well, I go to Houston, I doctor hop. So he was like, what's that? And he tells him, like, bro, there's clinics down there. If you know the right clinic to go to and you know what to say, they'll just let you walk out with anything. And so he's like, cool, okay, will you take me? And he's like, yeah, I'll take you. So he took him one time. All right. And my boy comes back and he's loaded up. Now, keep it also, like, I hadn't taken any pain pills since I broke my shoulder. So, it's like I started I started taking pain pills a lot, and not to the point, like, I was completely functional. I was never like nodding out. A lot of people didn't even know that I was abusing pills to the extent that I was, but that really just came into like a full-time thing for me. All right. 3 to 4 days a week, I'm going and we're picking people up. We're loading the car down, and all you had to do is be 21 or older with an ID. That's all you had to do. So it's like I'm telling people
You didn't have to show like a MRI,
no
nothing?
MRI, no. Now
That's a good doctor.
Oh yeah. He was the best. You know, I'm talking. This was in Houston in this shitty little strip mall, like just shitty, you know, bottom tier, and like the doctor's pulling up in a $200,000 Mercedes, like just he was like a Nigerian guy. When you get your script, he was an OBGYN, but he was running the pill mill. And so I would load people up. My thing was, I'll give you 20 pills. I'll let you keep the bottle, so you're always legit. In the future, you can buy your own pills and put them in this bottle. Yeah. And I'll take you and just do what I tell you, and we'll walk out of there. So, bro, it got to, I'm taking 3-4 people, 3-4 times a week. I got to the point where I was going so hard doing that shit, I started paying other people to take people for me and just sending them with money. Because like where I grew up in Tyler, I was about 3.5 hours from Houston, and the line at those pill mills starts at 3 a.m. Yeah. And like, so you'd pull up at, 3:30 and there's already 100 people in line, and some of them,
like outside.
Yeah. In the cold, in the rain, and they'll come and a lot of times they would come and just start counting, and they'd be like, hey, everybody after this person, you got to come back tomorrow. Like, cause we can only do a certain amount of people a day. So that's when shit really jumped off. That's when I won't say life took a turn for the worse, because at that time I thought life was great. My son's mom, who I was with at the time, like, we moved, got our own place. Like, I've always got money. I start buying jewelry. I start throwing concerts, because my mind was never that I want to just sell drugs my whole life. It was like, this is a stepping stone, and I'm going to use this to legitimize what I'm doing. So me and C-Rich started throwing concerts, and we'd rent out clubs in Tyler, and like we would just book like mainly like Texas-based rappers that have like huge followings in the state, and just a way to kind of clean the money. And it was legit money, but we were just running through the pills, and in my mind, like I was so oblivious to consequences, right? That like I didn't even understand at the time what I was doing was super bad news, in the sense of, now keep in mind another thing, this was way before all the fentanyl epidemic stuff. So it's like all the people that I was selling pills to back then, I'm still friends with them on Facebook today, and like, and all of them got kids, they're married, it wasn't crushing lives. We were just 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, just doing 21-year-old shit, but, so like, but it turned into a full-blown thing. We're throwing concerts, because I also was making music at the time. So I was putting a lot of money into like my music career, right? So it's like, and I'm also the stuff that I'm making my songs about, I'm actually doing, So I that really became like my priority in life, and so.
I just see it.
No, dude.
I can just see the, selling pills, selling weed.
Man. Hey, but I'll be honest with you, like and I'll get to it. But
I don't know how the feds got onto me.
Me either, man. No, it's like, but what's crazy is I never, ever, ever got in trouble on the pills. Like, so what happened, one thing that really slowed everything down and kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything, believe it or not, was when Michael Jackson died. I remember being on 1960, FM 1960 in Spring, Texas, waiting outside to hit the doctor, and then you just see all these feds just blowing down the street, local cops, feds, FBI, DEA, and there was another clinic across the street, because they're all kind of in bunches. Some of them you had to get in from a recommendation, some you got to know somebody, and dude, we're watching them outside raid the one across the street. Well, it ended up being a clinic, and we're all just standing there watching,
just standing there in line for your pill. Your pill, like, I guess we'll be next week.
Yeah, pretty much. And but come to find out, that was a clinic that Conrad Murray owned, which was Michael Jackson's doctor. And so, because he was involved in all sorts of shit, allegedly. And then so when all that happened, swear to God, 2 weeks later, I went back to the clinic that I went to, and they had been raided, right? But they were open, they're still open for business. You just had to fill everything out again because they're like, feds came and took all our records.
Right.
They took the TVs off the wall, arrested our nurse practitioner, but we got another one here now. And
they're expendable. There's lots of them.
oh, yeah. I mean, you got to think, back then it was costing $400 to see the doctor,
right?
And they're doing 150, 200 a day,
right.
6 days a week, and it's all cash, no insurance and no debit card. You had to pay cash for it. And so these guys were making tons of money, so stuff kind of started to get tight. That's when they did the national database, and you can only fill one controlled substance a month and stuff like that. So, damn, what was I saying? Okay,
they had raided the place across the street.
They raided the place across the street, and then also, so that my guy, C. Rich, the dude that put him on, he was much heavier in the game than we were. He was renting vans, and then another van, and they're taking 20, 30 people at a time down there. And so when we really kind of stopped is, C. Rich, he called me, and he said the guy that told him about, all the pill mills that just got picked up by the feds.
Right.
And I asked him what happened, and he was like, dude, he was driving through Lindell, which is a small town outside of Tyler. He was like, he was driving, and he just got surrounded. And then he had thousands of pills in the car. And I don't even know what happened to that guy. He just disappeared. He fell off the face of the earth. Him and C. Rich were super close. And he ended up sending word to C. Rich, said, hey, quit messing around. I'm going to cooperate. So just get out of the mix completely. Right. So that's when
if you get a phone call from me, don't answer it. Right.
Man, the dude was a real one, know. And what's crazy is he was a 300-pound gay dude, but just cool as hell, just really down for the cause. You know what I'm saying? He was a money getting motherfucker, and so
he's I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to crack I'm not going to crack your head. I'm going to get these guys over here. But the problem is then sometimes you crack those guys' head, they cooperate, and then they go after the guys that you didn't cooperate against. I'm not going to cooperate against you, but I busted these guys. Some of them know you. Next thing you know, they're trying to bust you.
Mm-hmm.
You could still end up getting roped in. So that's why he probably said, "Hey, I'm cooperating. So get out of this right now."
And we left all, which, once again, we're so young and stupid and naive that we're just
you still think it's not going to happen to you.
Well, yeah, I never would have, because we'll get to it. But when I transitioned out of all that type of shit, because I'm I'm going to play it safe. I'm just going to sell weed, and that's what ended up doing me in, But so we left it alone, and we were so naive to just the legal system and the justice system that we're all right, let's quit doing the pills. Let's just start selling weed and cocaine and ecstasy and all this shit, which, I mean, dumb as hell, which, for the record, I never liked dealing with any of that other shit, but just C. Rich had all the clientele for it. And it really turned into I would just throw my bread in. He would go and buy what he had to buy. Every once in a while, I'd have to go meet a custo to drop it off. But most of the time, it was more of just an investment thing on that end. I was just the weed guy. You call me if you want a pound, 10 pounds, 2 ounces, whatever. And so we had enough money from the pill game that now we're buying, 3-4 pounds of, back then hydro, fire ass hydro. Back when weed was $400 an ounce, and now it's damn near free because it's so oversaturated. But back then you could actually make good money off weed. So we transition, we're selling all the weed, life's still good, and at that time I never had any close encounters, never felt like I was being watched. C. Rich ended up getting in a little bit of trouble. His house did get raided, but he didn't have anything. He had a gun in there, but there were no drugs.
Right.
And we're in Texas,
You're allowed to have a gun.
Yeah. And I think he just got unlawful possession of a firearm, which is a misdemeanor. I could be wrong. In the state of Texas, I think it's a misdemeanor because he wasn't the one that legally bought it and he didn't have a bill of sale.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's I think he's set in the county for a couple months and they dismissed it and he was good, So, but at this time, I'm still he's locked up for that little bit of time and I'm just keeping keeping everything going, you know, which in my mind is also so fucking stupid looking back at it. Cause I'm like, my partner in crime is sitting in the county. His house just got raided and I'm still just out here, you know, hustling, you know? So, but we also started pouring more money at this time into like, cause he was a real big, really supportive of what I did musically. And I was also like just doing the concerts. So we were throwing concerts once a month, you know, and so shit kind of takes a turn, you know, like I said, life's still good. We're getting money. And then one day he starts feeling bad. You know, and this is like, man, when I tell you,
he got out though. By that point, he got out.
He had got out, and like we had still kept. Oh, and one time, right? So we had ran out of weed. This is just a funny story. So we had to go to this guy in Dallas that we were cool with. So it's like we go to his house and we pick up a couple. It wasn't. I think it was maybe a pound or two. It wasn't much. And like, so we're driving back from Dallas, and like right as we come into Tyler, we're going over this hill. I can't remember the road, but there's like a big Sam's Club right there, and like we're coming in at like 4 a.m., you know, 3 a.m. type shit. And then like, dude, I remember us both laughing hysterically because like C Rich was hilarious. Me and him would just trip out. The dude was really like damn near like blood to me, you know, like that was my brother. And like we were laughing hysterically and just like, and he swerved a little bit, got lit up, right? We're smoking a blunt. We got weed in the car, and then on top of it we get pulled over, and Corey's like, look bro, that was my fuck up. Like if they want to arrest one of us, I'll go in, just take my car, don't let them tow it, and get my bond. That's on me. And that's how down this fool was. Right. They don't make them like that anymore. Like he was too good for this earth type of thing. And regardless of what he, you know, selling drugs, like he was a great guy, great heart, you know, and he didn't want that for his whole life either. But dude, the cop walks up to our window. It's some fucking asshole we went to high school with that hated us in high school. And he's just like, oh, he already knew both our full names. He's like, oh, what do y'all got in the car now? Like he knew what we were doing in high school. Yeah. And we were like, man, we ain't got nothing. He was like, be honest. You know, I know y'all got something. I can smell the smoke still pouring out the windows, you know. And so I had rolled the blunt, so I got like little weed particles all over me, right? And I thought I had brushed them off, but all I did is brush them in my lap. And like, so he's like, Campo, I can see the weed on your shorts. And I was like, bro, that's not weed. You know, he's like, look, man, y'all just need to tell me how much is in the car. I'll take one of y'all to jail. I'll take both of y'all to jail. I can get the dogs out here. I really don't care, but y'all are going to jail. And then like, and it's in Smith County, they hang them high. So back in those days, bro, you get pulled over with a gram of weed, you're taking a trip to the county. They don't play around out there, right? It's crazy. So we end up telling them, okay, we got this in the car. And then the cop, once again, neither me or Corey know shit about the justice system. But the cop's like, well, look, I can put half on you and half on you. It would be better for you. But in reality, like if one of us took it all, it wasn't enough to be like anything more than a state jail felony. It was like, so if we would have split it up, we both would have got a state jail felony versus it's not like it would take it from a 3rd degree felony to a state jail felony and bring it down a peg. It was just like, he was just trying to fuck us over. So like C Rich takes the fall, he goes in, and like my son's mother is at the apartment. She's got a couple friends over, right? And they were just waiting on us to get back, you know, so we could smoke. Because in those days, I'd stay up all hours of the night, like up till 8, 9 in the morning, go to sleep and just do it all over again. So I walk in and they're like, where's C Rich? And I'm like, bro, he got arrested. We need to go. We need to find a bondsman and get him out. And they're like laughing. They're like, no, really? I was like, that fool just got arrested. We need to go pick him up. Right. So like now everybody's like worried, freaked out. And also I don't know that if you go to jail for a pound or something of weed, I don't know what the bond is. In my mind, I'm like, dude, this fool is locked up. He's going to have to, in my mind, I'm like, he's going to go to prison. You know, I'm freaked out for him, and I feel bad because I'm like, fuck, we should have never did it. We should have did it during the day. Man, we bonded him out for like $500, right? He ended up dying before that charge ever manifested into probation or prison time.
You said he just started feeling bad one day.
Yeah, he gets out, and one day he just starts like feeling bad, and he starts coughing, and there's blood all over his hands, and I'm like, damn, bro, like, well, you need to go to the doctor. And he was like, no, man, I think I'm fine. Yeah. The dude was a trip. He's like, I think I'm fine. I just need to quit smoking menthols, because he would smoke like a pack a day. And I'm like, all right, bro, we'll quit smoking menthols. And if it's not good in the next couple days, you need to go to the doctor. So like 2 days later, he quit smoking menthols. And in his mind, he's like, I'm just going to start dipping Copenhagen instead. So he just starts dipping Copenhagen, and then he's still coughing that shit up. I can't remember exactly if I took him or if he took himself to the doctor, or maybe me and my son's mom did. We had like a tight group of friends at that time. And like some people from high school, some of the people that I've met after high school, some people I met at TJC. And like, so, but he goes to the hospital and they don't let him leave. Like he checks in, and he's kind of like downplaying it. He's like, yeah, when I cough up a little bit of blood, and they're like, we need to admit you to ICU right now, right? He went from standing up, being fine, to you're going straight to ICU. Yeah. And like, so they take him in there. They can't diagnose what's wrong with him. They end up diagnosing him with something called Wagner's, or also good pastures disease. And like I said, it's super rare. It picks an organ, destroys it. It happened to pick his lungs, So they end up, like, the day after that, they give him a biopsy on his lungs. He flatlines on the table while they're doing the biopsy, right? So they end up resuscitating him, and he's fine. They do the biopsy, they get the results back, and and I'm going up there, and all our friends are going up there and seeing that guy every chance we get. Like, I basically was living at the hospital at one point, watching the Cowboys games at the hospital with them, just bringing them food. That was my dog, and I really, like, at that time I was still hustling, but like I put all that shit to the side. Like, I had enough little money, I can't remember the exact amount, but I had enough money that like all my bills were paid. We were taking, all my responsibilities were taken care of. So I was able to just like, bro, I'm here for you, and they end up letting him out of the hospital, and they're like, look, you're recovering, things are getting better. But they told him, like, your days are limited, like, make the most out of them. If it keeps regressing like this, you can probably live to your between 30 and 40. We're like 22 at the time. And like, he's like, okay. So, and he had told me, which is not really prevalent to the story, but he had told me what he saw when he flatlined, and he was dead. I can't remember the exact amount of time, but he was dead for a few minutes. And he was a huge Kobe Bryant fan, right? And he said that when he flatlined, that he was on a big cruise ship, and that everybody was there. I was there. All his friends were there. His parents were there. Kobe Bryant was there. And he said that it was so great that he didn't want to leave, and he just felt so peaceful. And I'm like, damn, man. So, and of course he's right here with me, so I'm making light of it. I'm like, bro, you'd be the only person that would die and want to hang out with Kobe Bryant and stuff like that. So they end up letting him out of the hospital. So I think he got out like the day before his birthday, right? Which, another thing that's crazy, my mom passed away. And, when we talk about like God, the universe, all that stuff, my mother and C. Rich died a year apart from each other, and they were born on the same day, like 35 years apart, which is just like a crazy coincidence, So it's the day before his birthday, and everybody's like, oh man, y'all need to throw a concert for his birthday. And I'm like, no, like the doctor said, he needs to stay off his feet, that his lungs are still like trying to heal. He had just got a piece of them cut off for a biopsy. Like, nah, I'm going to take, we can go over to his house, or y'all can come to my house. We'll order some food. Because I was on some shit, like, because his parents had moved to Dallas at the time. And like, so I'm like, on some keeping them in line type shit, like, bro, you can't do this, you can't do that. But unfortunately, a lot of the people in the social circle were like, bro, it's your birthday, we got to turn up, we got all this bullshit, right? So like, I remember we kind of got into an argument about it. I'm like, bro, you heard what the doctor said. Like, don't go, So he ends up, they throw this big party for him. They rent this venue out, and one of our other mutual friends throws this huge party for him, and they're making flyers, and at this time sharing them on MySpace. So he's like, I can't be late to my own birthday party and all this shit. Goes to the birthday party, is like smoking, popping pills, just getting fucked up. And then the next day he wakes up and he's just coughing up blood again. So he goes back to the hospital. I go up there and I see him, and man, like, it really fucks me up to think about it. But like, when I went in there and I saw him, he was just like so pale. And he was, man, he's such a good dude. He was in such good spirits, considering the fact. I don't know if he had already came to terms with it. My perspective on and outlook on life was totally different, 15 years ago.
Right.
And, but I remember I walked in and he was laying on a hospital bed, and he had a big bowl on his chest, and he was just coughing up his blood in it. Yeah, man, it was fucked up. And like, so we're sitting there talking, and then out of nowhere, the nurse walks up and is like, you need to leave, talking to me. You need to leave right now. So I'm like, all right. So like, me and C Rich are like laughing about it, joking about it. And we're like texting each other like on the way out. He's like, if anything happens to me, the nurse did it. And he's joking, of course. But, I get in the elevator. I was like, hey, visitation, was it like 7 or 9 for the hospital hours? I was like, I'll be back tonight, bro. Love you. Stay up. He's like, cool. Yeah, I love you. Thank you for coming. And then, man, I end up waking up to a bunch of missed calls from another one of our mutual friends, and they're like, that fool flatline, they're trying to resuscitate him right now. So like, me and my son's mom rush up to the hospital, and then a couple minutes after we got there, like, they came out to the waiting room, the doctor did, and he's like, hey man, he passed away. And everybody kind of looked at each other, broke down, but then like, I had to tell his parents because I was like his closest friend. So I had to be the one that called. His mother and father were already on the way because they heard he was back in the hospital. So they were rushing down there. And like, I remember I called and I was like, hey, and she was like, asked me, he died, didn't he? And I'm just like, yeah. And man, that shit was so fucked up. That was like a real life-changing moment for me.
Right.
I just, it didn't change me enough to completely reevaluate my life. Right. But it kind of like, I quit doing the concert promotion thing. After he passed away, I quit selling or associating myself with any hard drugs. And then I just became strictly the weed guy. Right. So
I just kind of realized like how fragile life is.
Yeah. And then like, I kind of laid off like, I will be honest, I was still taking pills like Xanax and hydrocodones and shit. But then like less than a year later, my mom dies out of nowhere. Like just, she, you remember Fin, the diet pill back in the day? So she took it back in the 90s and it gave her heart damage. Right. And man, just over the years, like she was having heart damage. The heart damage was just messing with her heart. She had high blood pressure, and like it just finally took its toll on her. She kept getting worse and worse and worse. So it's like after C Rich died, I'm really on my musical grind hard. And this is when like I start doing songs with like big Texas rappers. Right. And so I'm really focusing on this shit and just selling weed. And like, so there was this record label that's based in Houston, and I'd went on tour with Tech Nine. He's like the biggest independent rapper in the world, right? And like he had the Hostile Takeover tour, and like he had like 3 or 4 Texas dates, and like I opened on every one of them. And like, so I had done those shows, and then like the footage, it was kind of, YouTube was younger, but the footage kind of got around, and I released a song with one of the big artists at Strange Music, and this record label in Houston called me. And they're like, hey, we saw your footage from the tour, and we listened to some of your music. Do you want to come down and have a meeting? Maybe we can talk something out. So I'm like, okay. my mom had been feeling bad. Like she had been like going to the doctor here and there, but I didn't think she was about to die or anything, right? And she didn't either. My dad didn't. Like, she would just go into the doctor. They'd check her heart. They'd say, "Oh, you know, you'll be fine. You just need to take some of this and take less of that and all this shit," right? So I go to the meeting in Houston. I sit down with the record label owner. We talk about stuff, you know, and right before I went out of town, I told my parents, like, hey, when I get back, you know, we'll go to dinner. And at this time also, like, my parents have always been a huge part of my life. Like, because we're all we got. It's really just our intermediate family. Like, me being half Hispanic and half white, as fucked up as it is, like, my white side of the family, most of them kind of disown my mother for marrying a Mexican man. And then my Mexican side of my family, a lot of them disown my father for marrying a white woman. And like also, yeah.
Both, he's getting it from both ends.
Yeah, and also it's like my pops was raised, which he's no longer a Jehovah's Witness. He never really was, but he was raised Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
And then my mother was like, you know, Tampa Southern Baptist. You know, from Tampa she moved to Shreveport, Louisiana. So it's like, and you know, those are kind of conflicting. Jehovah's Witness people are very much like, you know, abide by strict rules, and you don't date somebody out of your religion or marry someone out of your religion. I don't even think they date, you know, it's just you don't marry somebody out of your religion. So it was just, so I didn't really have the connection with my family like that. And every time I would go to my mother's family, like my grandma and stuff like that, they didn't fuck with me. You know, I'm seeing how good they're doing, like all the white kids, you know, and they're just kind of like, you know, I'm chopped liver. I never felt welcome there, you know. So as soon as I got the opportunity when I was like 15, 16, and my mom's like, hey, we're going to go to grandma's house for Christmas. Do you want to stay? Yeah, I'm going to stay. I'd rather sit here on Christmas alone than go to chill at their house and feel like I'm, you know, the outcast, you know? So I wanted to note that. So like, anytime I'm around, and at this time, my parents know what I'm doing for the most part. And my mom would always just say, don't call me when you go to jail. But she was still cool with me. Like, I'd come over. She'd be like, don't be smoking that shit at my house. And don't be bringing weed over here. She eventually was cool with that, too. It turned into like, if you're going to come over here, y'all better just smoke in the garage or smoke outside. And then when she started feeling like shit, like she would get pain pills, like her own script. And like, so she'd pop them too. So I'd be able to call her and be like, hey, Madre, you know, I'm out of pills. Can I have, you know, 5 or 6 pills? And when I get back to Houston, I'll give you 5 or 6 pills. She's like, cool. You know, so they were really aware, but they knew I was trying to do something better for myself. They knew at this time, like, I was really hard on the music shit. So I remember telling them, like, hey, I got this meeting in Houston. When I get back, let's all go to dinner. And they're like, okay, cool. You know, I left, got back home real late. Like, I got home at like 4:00 in the morning because I drove back each way after the meeting. And I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and my son's mom wakes me up, and she's like, your dad's on the phone. And I can just tell by the look on her face that something's wrong, you know? Yeah. And like, 'cause she's like trying not to cry. And then so I'm like, my dad's on the phone. I look at my phone, and I've literally got 30 missed calls from my dad. He's been calling me like every fucking minute for 2 hours, right? And but we were asleep. And like I talked to my dad, and I'm just like, what's up? And then I can just tell by like his voice that like I for some reason I already knew, you know, without knowing. He was like, hey, I had to take your mom to the hospital last night, and you need to get up here. The doctor said she's not gonna make it. So I'm like, what the fuck? So like, we get in the car, we fly to the hospital. I walk in there, my mom's in her hospital bed, fucking tubes down her throat, all sorts of shit in, like all her vital organs have pretty much quit working at this point. And like, the rest of my family's already there. Like, all her family's there. And like, I've got a half sister and a half brother that like, my half brother, he's not a good dude. My half sister, she's cool. We're not super close, but I mean, we grew up together for a while, and they're already there. And like, so I remember like walking up to my mom, and she can't really say anything, And this is one thing that's always really fucked me up is that, she would always tell me I'm her baby. I was her love child because she was actually in love with my father.
Right.
She was like, I never loved my ex-husband, but I really love your dad, and you're my child of love. You're my baby. That's why I would get away with more shit than they would, And I remember her sitting up in the bed, and she starts like trying to pull the hose out of her mouth, and she's grabbing my arm like, get me out of here type shit. And I had to basically tell her like, no, Mom, just lay down. You can't go, which it just really fucks me up, is that I'm basically like, you just have to lay here. It's time for you to die.
Right.
And like, because of course, if I could, I would have taken her with me. And like, bro, I swear, told her how much I loved her. And then like, talked to her, held her hand, and then like walked out of the room when the doctors came in, and like literally less than 5 minutes later she died. And it's like she was just hanging on long enough, to see me. And her and my son's mother were like super close, my now ex-wife, we were together for 15 years, and like so she was basically like family to my family, and to this day we're still close. Like, we're friends, we co-parent, she's cool. She's really helped me through a lot of shit too. And, so like that shit is when I like made a change, after that happened, after we buried my mom, I was like, I got to let go of these drugs. I got to let go of these pills. And at that time, like pain pills, I would manage, but I was getting real bad off on Xanax, and then I'd started like, I got robbed a couple times at this point, nothing super crazy, but just people like kind of jacking me, getting a gun pulled out here and there, meeting somebody and them grabbing the shit and taking off running and getting in a car. And like, so I'm like, man, I gotta, and a lot of it was just because I was so high all the time on downers that like I couldn't see what was about to happen, So I ended up like detoxing. Like I just quit taking Xanax cold turkey, which I didn't know. You're not supposed to do that,
right.
So like I was having seizures and all sorts of shit. It was scary as hell. I ended up finding out afterwards from the people that lived across the street from my parents. The one that I was telling you about at lunch, she was the head of like health and kinesiology at TJC, and she's really in touch with like health stuff in the human body. And I told her that I got off of them, and she was like, you're lucky you didn't die. Like you're supposed to do that under like medical supervision. So I dropped the Xanax habit. I would still take the pain pills here and there, but I dropped the Xans, and then feel so much better. Like I was broken for a while because it was like, man, I was still waking up depressed almost every day because my best friend had died. And then I finally start getting back into the flow of life, and now my mother dies.
Right.
And like all while this is happening, I'm still trying to sell weed. I'm still doing all these shows with these rappers and all this type of shit, and like just putting on a face, but really I was depressed as fuck. And like, so I kind of I quit doing the Xans, and I'm like, this is it. Like I'm going to focus on this music shit full force. And that's just what I'm going to do. So at this time also, this is how I got into the jewelry stuff. My guy, shout out Juan Treasures, Tyler, Texas. That's my boy. My brother taught me everything I know about jewelry. I went to him and I got a chain made, like just a custom chain. And then like I'd pop out with the chain on, and then when I'm opening for people, Jeezy, Tech Nine, Lil Wayne, these people, they're like, if not them, people in their entourage will be like, hey man, who did that chain? Because my guy is so cold with it. He was killing the craftsmanship. He's based in Tyler, Texas, and he's killing these Houston jewelers at that time. He's killing these guys in LA. So everywhere I went, people are asking me who did my chain. So I started like middlemaning chains. Like I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do your piece. Let me get you all the shit. And I would just pocket a little bit of money.
Right.
And then, but then Juan's like, bro, let me just put you on game. I'm going to teach you everything. So he taught me about cuts, clarity, settings, everything. He's like, and then, we'll send you out there and you can just start representing us and just get clientele. So at this time I start flying to LA a lot, but it's because I meet a plug in LA. So I just start buying weed from LA and just shipping it to myself in Tyler. So like once a month, twice a month, I'm going out to Los Angeles. And in those days, I was only buying like 10, 20 pounds at a time. But like I said, weed then was like $4,000 a pound, $3,500 a pound, $3,000. It'd be a good price if I'm getting them for $1,700, $1,800 and then selling them, I'm making $4,000, so it was cool money and I'm doing it twice a month, so, but I also start getting in rooms with the right people at this time. So like, I end up like linking up with, Young Buck from G Unit, who was 50 Cent's label. And then he gets a piece from me. And then that led to me doing a piece for 50 Cent and doing the unit pieces for all those guys. And then it just led to word of mouth, me doing a chain for Ty Dolla $ign. So in my mind, I'm like, this shit's really about to take off. Like I'm making money doing jewelry. My social media is going crazy because every week or two you see a picture of me and Rick Ross, me and 50 Cent, me and Ty Dolla $ign. So it's like the clout's coming at an all-time high. So it's like life is just going great. It was the first time that I felt happy in like a really long time, and I told my pops and I told my son's mom, like, this is it. Life's going to change. I'm going to use this as like a stepping stone to make people take my music more seriously. And I'm going to just keep flooding the game with jewelry. And I'm just going to sell weed until until I don't have to anymore. And I remember one day I was in tears, right? Because like I had done the Black Bottle Boys piece for Rick Ross. And like I was talking to his VP at Maybach Music Group. And like they put it all over their social medias, took pictures of it, and like were tagging me and shit. And like that led a lot of traffic to my page. And like I remember they called me and they told me that they wanted another piece. And I remember just like breaking down in tears. I was just so happy.
Oh, okay.
That like,
no, what are you upset for?
No, I was so happy. I think I've really kind of been searching for validation my whole life and inanimate objects and that was like a huge, this guy, Rick Ross, he's one of the biggest artists in the world. He can buy jewelry from anybody, but he's wanting me to do his piece, So I remember just being so happy.
Hey, real quick, just wanted to let you guys know that we're looking for guests for the podcast. If you think you'd be a good guest or you know somebody, do me a favor. You can fill out the form. The link is in our description box, or you can just email me directly. Email is in the description box. So back to the video.
I had reached out to Young Buck, right? Just randomly reached out to him on Instagram, and he's no longer with G Unit, but he was with 50's label, 50 Cent's label. I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, here's a picture of some of my work. I'd love to do a piece for you. And he had sent me a picture. He's like, man, if you do a piece for me, he said, if you hook me up, with a piece, I'll put you in contact with the boss, right? So I did him a piece. He had a clothing line called Dope Boy University, and his logo was like a baking soda box with like his logo on it. I got some pictures of it up on my IG too. But like, so I give him the piece, beautiful piece, right? He loves it, and I ended up getting really cool with Young Buck. He ended up going back. He had his own legal stuff going on, and he went back to jail like probably about a year before I did. Just he's home now. He's doing great. But like, can
I ask a question? So baking soda, they use baking soda to make crack, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I forget.
See,
You're just a fraud guy.
And I know, like at Colby, Colby's like,
well, definitely.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you whip it up with cocaine and turns it into crack cocaine. Okay. Which has never been my thing. I'm just saying it's
now
Yeah. So that's probably demonetization, but no, but. I did that piece for him, and like he was in LA when I was in LA. So I'm like, man, let's link up. I'll give you the piece. So I gave him the piece. He loved it. He was like, damn, like I'm gonna put you down with 50. And like, and a lot of people will say they'll do things and they usually don't. Not usually, but it's 50-50, right? Yeah. But I ended up getting really cool with Young Buck. Like every time I'd fly in and out to LA to re-up and shit. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing, Buck? He's like, man, I'm just chilling at Tennessee. I'm like, no, hey, come out to LA. You know, I'm out here. And he would come out and, you know, we get a hotel at the Portofino in Manhattan Beach and just like, you know, just chill and go out and shit like that. So he ends up telling me like 50 wants some pieces for the unit, and that's like, it used to be G Unit, but then they switched to another label, and I guess they changed it to the unit. But he was like, look, he wants one for everybody in the clique, like for himself, Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, Kid, myself, all that shit. So I'm like, all right, bet. He goes, but look, he ain't gonna pay if he don't like them. So you gotta have to make them first and bring them out, and you can come to the show it was at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia. So it's like I get all the pieces made. I catch a flight to the Electric Factory. It's like a big venue. And so this was always crazy. So I went in there and, I told Young Buck I was here. He let me through like in the back door of the arena, and like, so I'm just chilling. It's G Units there with all the members, and there's like a bunch of women there and just homeboys there. Everybody's smoking, drinking smoking blunts, drinking Hennessy and shit. And so I'm like, hey man, I got these pieces in my backpack, you know, just let me know when you want them. He was like, give me a minute. So he goes next door, and I see him knock on a door, right? And there's probably like 50 people out there, and everybody's like playing pool and smoking, music's blaring, and like backstage. And he knocks on a door, and he walks in. He doesn't hold the door all the way open. He just slips in, and then like he comes back out. He was like, hey, 50 said you can go in now. So I was like, all right, swear to God, we walk in this room. All these guys are like, you know, smoking and drinking. 50's in there with a fucking bonsai tree, like soft oriental music, like soothing music on. He's got his laptop open, gets up, shakes my hand like a businessman. He's like, you want hot tea? You want a coffee? You want... All these other guys are outside drunk. You know, smoking weed. He's just like, I don't do any of that stuff. I'm just looking over some reports that I got. And I was like, oh, here's the jewelry. And he shows, he's like, man, I love it. You know, it's super nice, the nicest major rapper I've ever met. Like, super cool. We sat there and talked to him for like 30 minutes. Like, one of my buddies was with me. He was really into like trading stocks, and at that time 50 was just coming off as selling the vitamin water stuff, and he got a huge check, and like so he just sat there and he's talking about stocks, bonds, dividends, a bunch of shit I don't know anything about, but and he's just talking to us like the way I'm talking to you, and he's just like, hey, you guys want to stay for the show? I was like, hell yeah. Dude put us like in the pit, like where here's the crowd's all right here, here's the security guards, and we were like right there in the stage, right? And he was cool as fuck, you know. So you know, he paid for his chains, you know, and no problem, no runaround. And so that was a good relationship, and that all just came based on, you know, one connection to another. I also knew, because when I was doing my musical shit, when it was really jumping, I'd linked up with some people from Atlantic Records, and like was talking to them about like a radio deal, and we were going back and forth. I ended up catching my charge before anything could come to fruition, but I'd met up with one of the A&Rs over there. He's actually the VP now, the vice president of Warner Music. But, you know, I developed a relationship with him. I sold him his wife's engagement ring too. Like they'd buy jewelry from me, and he was breaking an artist, Ty Dolla $ign, and like who Ty Dolla $ign's huge. He just did the joint album with Kanye West a couple months back. But this was back when Ty Dolla $ign really wasn't, going too crazy. And like, he was just coming out. And so, dude, swear to God. So he tells me on the phone, he's like, yeah, I'm out here. They were in Dallas. He's like, I'm out here trying to break Ty Dolla $ign, taking them to radio stations to get them to break through. And he was like, but he'll be with me if you want to meet him. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I get online, I look up Ty Dolla $ign. I've never even heard of him. And I hear all his singles. And so when I meet up with him, I'm like, dude, Ty, bro, nice to meet you. I love that song Paranoid you got. And he's like, oh, thanks, bro. I didn't even know people were banging that in Texas. And so, me, he's from LA, he's from Cali. So me and him get cool. And I'm like, hey, bro, let me know. I'll do you a piece. And like, so we exchange information, and he ended up getting that Ty Dolla $ign piece that I think I was showing Colby earlier that was on my Instagram. But it's like,
what do these pieces cost?
It just depends. Like, I've had some artists who I won't put them on blast, but I've had some of them that are like, I want it sterling silver and I don't want real diamonds in it.
Right.
And then like dudes like Rick Ross are like, it needs to be 18 karat gold and it needs to be the best fucking diamonds you can get. Like, I don't want no bullshit. But I have had some artists that, they only want to spend $2,500,
right.
3,000. And then you got some people like the Bosch, Ricky Rose, like you tell them 50,000, 70,000 here, keep the change type shit. So it's just, it varies, now given I hadn't made many pendants in the past couple years, but now I see a lot of these guys that are going to these celebrity jewelers paying $300,000 for a chain, $400,000 for a chain. And it's crazy to me because I still understand the business,
right,
even though I don't make chains to the rate that I used to. And I'm like, bro, they got 9,000% margins on that shit.
Like, how are they justifying these prices?
From their name. Like, there's a lot of jewelers that are like really big and trendy on social media. One place in particular out of Atlanta. And like, bro, everybody will go out there and get a piece and they'll pay 8 times, 9 times, 10 times what it's worth. I'm like, bro, you go into them and paying $500,000. I could have done that for you for $75,000.
Right.
I would have done it for $150,000. But there's a good and bad. And then you also got to look out now. A lot of these jewelers are using moissanites, which are fake. They're a stone that'll test as a diamond on a diamond tester. And so a lot of people, they're getting these chains and they're busting them down, and then they'll put like half real diamonds and half moissanite. So then like when you hit it with the pin, it passes every time. And there's been a lot of jewelers that have been busted doing that. Major jewelers been scamming people out of millions of dollars doing that. So if anybody's watching, look out for the moissanites.
All right.
Through one of Tech Nine's artists, Stevie Stone, great dude. He introduced me to this dude. This is when shit starts to get dicey. All right. So he introduces me to this guy, God rest his soul also, Hollywood Will. Great guy, great rapper. And Will gets a piece from me. He was like, man, Stone said you could do me a piece. And I was like, yeah, I got you. Just send me what you want. So I do the piece for him. So he was out in Vegas and he's like, hey man, if you ever come out to Vegas, let me know. We can link up. I end up mailing him the piece, and I'm like, hey man, I heard the weed game is kind of crazy out there. And he was like, oh yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't really fuck around much, but I know a couple people that do. One of my best friends does. If you want, I can put you in contact with them. I'm like, bet. Let's do that. So because at this time, I'm going straight to the sources in Cali, and I'm getting decent numbers. I'm killing them in Tyler with it. And I'm like, and so many people all the time are telling me, oh, I can do you better numbers. I can do, but I still hear people out, so I hear this dude out. I happen to be in Los Angeles, right? I was in Los Angeles for probably re-upping or taking somebody some jewelry, and Will calls me and he said, hey, my boy is in LA. He's shooting a music video with French Montana. If you want to meet him, you can go to the video shoot. So I'm like, cool. Go to the video shoot. I meet the guy, white guy, cool dude, and like he's on big dog shit. He's like, he goes, yeah man, my bro told me about you. Like, how many do you want? And I'm thinking like, 10, 20. He's like, you want 100? You want 200? And I was like, shit, we can start with 100. He's like, bet, just text me the address. It'll be at your house. Give me 2 or 3 days. So I'm like, this fool's full of shit. You know, I didn't believe any of it. And I was like, well, how much are they? He was like $1,000 a piece. $1,000 a piece in 2011. Bro, this is when I really came up, you know? So I'm like, all right, man, whatever. He called me one morning. I was asleep. He was like, did you get that off your porch yet? I was like, get it off I'm asleep. He's like, well, go get that shit off your porch and call me back after you open it up. I go outside and there's 2 moving boxes that are like 3.5 feet tall, come up like almost to my chest, just huge. And they're just full of pounds. And this dude was so reckless that, like, you know, he wasn't double vacuuming and double boxing shit. He would literally, bro, one time I got a box and he only put 1 strip of tape over the top. So the box had just caved in and you just see packing peanuts and there was fucking 25 pounds in the box. And they're just like, so real reckless. But when we had a couple times that packs would get snagged and he would just be like, oh, bro, fuck it. Don't worry about it. Just give me another address. I'll send another 25 out.
Yeah, well, he's probably making so much money. What does it matter?
Oh, yeah, bro. That's the first time. Really, that's the only time that I'd seen anybody with $1 million cash. Like, and this dude was just so, now I get real cool with this guy, you know, and he's spending money hand over fist. He's, you know, it's a relationship to where he's always wanting to buy jewelry. And like, so he's like, hey man, I need this for my girl. I want this for myself. I need 2 custom pieces. These are the logos I want for them. Just get it together and just let me know how much I owe you. So it's like, I'd get it all together. Me and Juan would track this shit down and I'd be like, hey Juan, get me a price on the piece. Like, let me know, with the gold weight, the clarity count, or the stone count, clarity, all that. And I'd call him and be like, hey bro, everything will be 85,000 or something. He's like, all right, cool. You want the cash or do you want to just get it in pounds? So in my mind, I would always take it in pounds because I'm like, you know, 85 racks, you know, at $1,000 a piece on the pounds that I can turn into, you know, and I can get 2,000, 3,000 for the pounds. It's a win-win. So we just start going crazy, you know? And so I'm always flying to LA. Like I said, he's a musician. I don't know what happened to him. I hadn't talked to him since I came home, but he was a musician. So he would come on tour with me, you know, when I'd have show opportunity, because this turns into like, that's my dog. So I'm like, hey bro, I got to open for so-and-so in Portland. You want to do a song on my set? And he'd be like, cool. So we start just rocking real hard. And, my money's up now. You know, I do that for like 2 or 3 months strong, maybe like 6. And like, so it got to the point that this is like the first time in my life that I've got more than just like 10, 15,000. Like, this is like, I got 30 racks underneath my son's bassinet. I got 30 racks in cereal boxes. Right. I got $50,000 in a Monopoly box in plain sight, just on a shelf with board games. Right. And I remember, and then to top it off, I got 100 pounds in the house, and you know, it's Texas, baby. So, and look, I've never been on no, you know, pretending to be a gangster, a thug, or any of that shit. But I had a lot of guns, but like my guns were all legitimate. I don't fuck around with any of that bullshit, and I'm not out trying to hurt people, but I did have a lot of guns. And I remember thinking to myself, and I told my son's mother, I was like, hey, we gotta move. You know, she was like, why? And I was like, man, just there's too much money here. I got guns here, even though they're legal. Even though I didn't know anything about the justice system, I know that guns, drugs, money, bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a bad combination.
Hell yeah. So I'm like, we got to get out of here. We got to change it up. Let's move to California, right? She's like, okay, well, I'm down. You know, we can do that. So I go to my dad. I tell him, hey, Pops, I want to open a dispensary in LA, and you know, I want you to come with me. My mom had just passed away. He had been with my mom for 22 years at that point, I think. The only woman he had ever been with, he was a widower. And so he was just alone. So I'm just like, all right, you know, I want you to come with me. We can do a family operated dispensary. He's like, cool. If you get it set up, I'll go. So I was like, all right. So I fly out to LA and I meet with like a weed attorney, right? And I sit down and he gives me all the laws. At this time, it was a medical dispensary. And so he tells me all the laws and everything and how to get the permits and how to set stuff up. And so I'm like, look, bro, how much do you want for this just to be like a turnkey operation?
Right.
You know, I'll just give you the cash. You do all that shit. I don't have to file stuff with the state. And he only wanted like $8,000. Now to open a dispensary in Cali, you're looking at $1 million plus because of how expensive the permits are. But medical was different. So he's like, cool, give me a couple weeks. Give me $8,000. I'll make it happen. So meanwhile, I go back to LA and like, you know, I'm feeling myself, you know, I got money, the music shit's going great, the jewelry shit's going great. And I remember driving down the street. I had a Kia Soul, right? That was like the car that I was driving, a little hamster car. You remember the commercials?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So it's like, I got a Kia Soul, I'm going down the road and I'm doing math in my head just while the music's playing. And then I'm like, damn, I made like $50,000 this week, which just blew my fucking mind, right? Because I had sold a bunch of jewelry to that guy. I've been selling pounds, and I'm like, and keep in mind, like I didn't nickel and dime. I was just selling, you know, or fronting like 10 pounds to this guy, 10 pounds to that guy, you know, come back next week, bring me the money type thing. And so I wasn't like in the street standing on the corner.
Yeah.
Like as far as for public appearance, everybody just thought that I was thriving on the jewelry and music shit. They didn't know that I was just really just making a majority of my money off weed.
Right.
But I remember I was going down this road in Tyler called Roan's Quarter, and it's a moment that sticks out in my mind. And all of a sudden I just like slam on my brakes. And then like my son's mom was like, what are you doing? I said, man, I'm about to go buy a Mercedes. Like I'm done with this Kia shit. I make too much money for a Mercedes or for a Kia. No shade to Kia. Just I was young and stupid. I was like 24, so I bust a U-turn, go to the Mercedes dealership. I'm talking to the lady at the Mercedes dealership. She was cool as hell, and I told her, you know, like we were looking at stuff, and all I could really afford then was a C300. You know, which was like, it was like a 2018, or no, it was 2014, my bad. And so I get the C300, drive it for like probably 2 months. And I tell her when I'm at the dealership, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be back and I'm going to get a G-Wagon. That's my dream car, right? I'm like, I'm going to get a G-Wagon. Just mark my words. She was like, well, hey, I'm here for you. I'm still cool with the Mercedes dealership the Mercedes dealer to this day. And she's like, I believe in you. You know, I can tell, you know, which may have been just saleswoman tactics, but she's, you know, and she'd call me every couple of weeks like, hey, you know, let me know when you want that G-Wagon. So, cause she was telling me on the G-Wagons, they have to put in like you have to, there's a waiting list for that shit, you know, to get a brand new one, you know, from the lot. So she, it's been about a month and a half goes by, 2 months maybe. I'm still waiting for the dispensary shit to all come to fruition. And she calls me one day, and I think she's just calling to tell me, like, check in with me. And she was like, hey, did you still want that G-Wagon? She kind of put me on the spot. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's my goal. She was like, well, look, I don't know your money situation right now, but a dentist in Tyler ordered a G550, customized it, cappuccino Dizino interior. It was black. And she was like, and he put a deposit on it. He's been on a wait list for like 2 years. The car came in. He doesn't want it anymore. So they told me that if I had any clients, I could call them. If not, we got to ship it off to Dallas and give it to somebody else. So I'm like, yeah, I'll come up there. So, you know, I end up like, I call my pops, you know, because that's my financial liaison, if you will.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, I don't think I can afford this really. Like I can afford it in the long run, but I can't go drop 150, 200 right now. But like, I'm like, can we go up there? You know, I'm going to put a big down payment. At this time, my credit's non-existent. The only thing on my credit is that I owe FAFSA fucking $14,000, you know? So he's like, yeah, I'll come up there. So my pops ends up like co-signing for me. And dude, and this is how like naive and just oblivious to the world I am. I go up there with a backpack with cash in it. and like I'm in the sales office and I'm like, all right, I got the down payment, throw my backpack off, unzip it, shake cash out. They walk up, they shut the door. They're like, no. We cannot take cash.
Right.
You can't pay. And I'm like, what the fuck? My mind's always been cash is king.
Right.
They're like, no, like you need to go somewhere and get a cashier's check. And for your down payment,
It's gonna be hard to walk in and get a cashier's check too.
it took me like 3 banks,
Right.
But finally Chase was like, oh, $20,000 cashier's check and a bunch of 10s, 5s, and 20s. Oh, sure, no problem. What do you do for a living? I was like, I'm a jeweler.
I'm a stripper.
Yeah, basically. Get the cashier's check, go up there, and get the car, come home. That's when I was like, we really got to get out of here now because we're renting a house that's worth $140,000. The
Right.
car in the driveway is worth as much as the
House.
the house. Yeah. So everything comes together. Boom. The dispensary shit gets right, and we all just pack up and we move. Right. When I get to LA, like the guy that I was getting the big weight from, that was from Vegas.
Right.
He quits answering my calls, and I'm like, damn, I'm one state over. Why is this guy not answering my calls?
You get busted?
I got a call from another number, and they're like, hey, your boy told me to call you, said don't call his phone. Will, the guy that introduced me to him, got killed last night at his video shoot. And he doesn't know what's going to happen. So he's just completely let the game go. And I'm like, got killed last night. So like, I end up finding out that he's at the video shoot, and they were shooting a video. It was at the MGM, or I think it was the Hugh Hefner suite at the Palms or the MGM or something. Because like I said, these dudes were balling. So he's renting the rooms that are like $20K a night and shit, shooting a music video in it. And then something happened apparently where he had gotten a fight with somebody, and the dude had hired one of his friends to be security, and he pulled the gun out to break up a fight, which is the stupidest shit ever.
Yeah.
Pull a gun out to break up a fight, and then it went off, and he shot him in the chest, and the dude died, right? So I was like, damn. So that shit kind of fucked me up too. I wasn't as close to him, but he was a great guy, great heart. He wasn't really involved in any of that shit. He was just a musician also. He was just trying to make it. He was just living an honest life, hard worker. He just was around people that, were after low hanging fruit. And so basically now I'm in Cali, and my plan was to use his bud to sell at the dispensary. So now I really don't have like a plug out there. So it didn't take me long, bro, when you open a dispensary, like, in mine, this is like 14, 15, they would send like sales reps to you. Like, I work for so-and-so farms, and we've got 5 new strands that'll be available next week. And hey, we brought you a couple samples of our last harvest, and here's our prices. And, and these dudes are like showing up, suit, tie, or sending emails with pictures and shit. And so it was easy to find somebody out there. So everything's going great. Living life, selling at the dispensary. My pops works for me. My son's mom works for me. I had a badass penthouse in the Miracle Mile district at the Palazzo East. Life's going great. Like, we're killing the business. LA Times puts us as number 1 new growing dispensary. Like, we were in the top 5, and
right.
and I'm like, life can't get any better.
So are you getting a lot of people directed because of the music connections too? Is that helping? I mean,
well, I'm kind of doing that on the side. What really jumped off the weed dispensary was this app called Weed Maps.
Right.
And so Weed Maps is something, which it may be, I don't even know if it still exists now, but it's kind of like it's like a GPS, and you can pull out Weed Maps and you can look at it, and it'll show you all the dots of the dispensaries near you.
Right.
And so really, I didn't have a brick and mortar store. Everything was just delivery, because there was no overhead. I already have crazy overhead from the penthouse I got. And so we just do all deliveries. And so we put 3 different points on the map. And so all day long, from the time that we were in business at 8 a.m. till we closed at 8 p.m., phones ringing, and I was doing all of that by the book. You know, like I wasn't fucking around with that shit. At that time, you had to get the people's medical marijuana card. You had to, have them fill out papers to give you consent to be their caregiver. They had to join your collective. And, all that shit was on board. Where I was fucking up is I was still smelling weed back to Tyler the whole time.
Right.
And which was dumb, bro. Like I was doing well enough with the dispensary that I shouldn't have been doing that. But like the guy who ended up getting in trouble with all this, well, there was a bunch of them that we all got in trouble. But he was like, man, don't leave me hanging. So I'm just like, I won't. I was cool with him. He's a good dude. He's doing great now. So everything was going great in LA, business is booming. I'm sending stuff back to Texas though. One of my buddies, my main guy out there, he was like, man, when you go to LA, don't forget about me. Cause at this time we're doing crazy numbers and he's one of the I had two guys out there that I was dealing with on a big level. One of the guys right before I moved to LA, great guy, dude had a great heart. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, but completely unrelated. He battled with alcoholism real bad. Hard worker, money getting dude, but he had like a 9-to-5 job, it was like kind of like construction type of thing, but he'd come by my house every day to pick up weed because all his coworkers would want to buy it. So every day after work, he'd call me, hey, I'm on my way over. I need 10 ounces. I need a pound. I need a half pound. And he's always paying cash. And like, he would show up sometimes like super drunk. Right. And I'm like, damn, bro, you just got off work. And he's like, yeah, I had some liquor in the truck. And I'm just like, bro, you got to be careful. Right. One day he pulls up to my house. He doesn't call me. I just hear a car pull up and I'm like, damn, that music sounds close. He's so drunk. And I live in a nice residential neighborhood. I just got the G-Wagon. This dude pulls up. His truck's in my front yard, like in the grass, parked sideways. 2 a.m., music blaring, subwoofers banging. I was like, bro, turn the music down. He's like, sorry. He's barely able to stand up and keep it together. And so he comes in. I give him what he needs. I'm like, hey, bro, you need to crash here tonight. He was like, nah, bro, I'm good. I was like, bro, you need to crash here tonight. And he lived right across the street, like right across the highway from me. And I can't remember if I gave him a ride or if he spent the night, but I know he didn't drive home that night. The next day, he had called me that morning. He was like, damn, bro, sorry about that. I was fucked up. And he was like, when I get off work, I got to come over tonight. My buddy needs something. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll see you when you get here. 4:00 is usually around when I'd hear from him when he gets off. Well, it's like 6 or 7 and I hadn't heard from him. I'm calling him. He's not picking up the phone. And then I get a call from a number I don't know. And I answer it and it's his girlfriend. And she's like, hey, I got a really bad feeling. I haven't heard from my guy. Somebody told me that there's a truck that looks like his that's wrecked on the road, the highway right by y'all's house. Can you drive by and see if it's him? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Drive by. His car is like an accordion, right? I get out. He's on the stretcher talking to me in a neck brace. And then, and it's pouring rain. And like there's paramedics and cops everywhere. And then there's helicopters going off. And I'm like, where are y'all taking them? They said, oh, we're taking them to Mother Frances Hospital. And it was my good friend. So I follow the ambulance to Mother Frances Hospital. Well, I'm in the waiting room. And like I said, I was just about to move to Los Angeles at this time, like in the next 2 or 3 days. And he's telling me, dude, take me with you to LA. They said I killed 3 people. And he's drunk as fuck. Yeah. He's like, I gotta get out of here. I'm like, damn, bro, you're good. We'll figure it out. He did. He hit a teacher who had her 2 kids in the car and a foreign exchange student in the car and killed them all. Right. And like the state of Texas didn't take kindly to that, which they, that's a type of crime you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And like he did, his time wasn't running CC. It wasn't running concurrent. They were stacking like 50 years for each one, so he got aggravated vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. And so, he's going to have to do, half that time. He's going to have to make parole on each charge. And he was already like 35 when he went in. So, once that happened, I only had my one big customer left. So I really wasn't, I was just ready to get out, move to LA. So I wanted to tell you that. So back to LA. So everything's going great. The dispensary's booming. We're in the LA Times, running like a well-oiled machine. I'm still sending weed back to Tyler. And it got to the point where like I'm sending so much that I think at first we were mailing the money, and then I had a box that was mailed and 10 grand was stolen out of it. Now it was a small box. It wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't like one of these packs with 40,000, 50,000. It was they had taken a big painting, the canvas, wrapped it up, and they had put like 10 or 15,000 just in the middle of it. And like they sent it overnight. And I noticed, I'm like, damn, it said out for delivery. It never showed up. I'm calling FedEx like, hey, my package isn't here yet. Can you let me know what's going on? And like 2 hours later, a driver shows up. And then like I open it and everything's gone. It's just wet newspaper in a cylinder. So I'm like, yeah, we're not going to mail money anymore.
Right.
Which another time, this is kind of funny. I had another plug that I fucked with out of Oregon, and like he was giving me big weight around the same time that the dude from Vegas was. And so my guy from Vegas couldn't get with me. I would call my guy in Oregon, and so he's sending me all this shit, and I'm just mailing the money back, and I'm doing my shit right. I'm triple vacuuming 50 grand, 40 grand, 30 grand, and I'm just overnighting it to him. So one day I remember I send them $24,000 in cash, right? Double vac in a box. Well, and on the packing slip, I would put my real info. I'd put my name, my address, his name, where it's going, and I would never put my phone number, but something told me I put his. He called me one day and he's like, bro, I got a call from the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office in Texas, and they intercepted that package. They're telling me that it was addressed to me, and they need you to call them. And I was like, call him? I'm not about to fucking call him. He was like, no, dude. He had a 1974 Plymouth Feather Duster for sale, right? He goes, bro, I told him that the bank that I bank with isn't out here, so that you just mail me the cash because you're going to come down next week and get the feather duster. And I was just like, all right. So I call an attorney first, and I'm telling him everything, just a random attorney that I found online,
right.
Not who I ended up hiring. And then he's like, yeah, just call them. If the cops like are trying to question you or like seriously question you or tell you any bullshit, like then call me. But, and he was explaining to me, if there's no crime, he was like, is it ill-gotten money? I'm like, oh no, I'm buying a feather duster,
Right.
And so I called the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. I'm like, hey, so-and-so told me that you called them, that you had intercepted a package. He was like, yeah, our dogs hit and all the money tested for MDMA, traces of MDMA. I don't fuck with any of that shit. So I'm like, man, I don't go near any of that. I don't know anything about it. So they're like, well, look, we're going to give you a call back in a couple days. We've made a couple phone calls. We got your name. We just want to make sure that you're not tied up in any investigations and everything checks out. You can come pick up your money. And which was the weirdest shit ever. And like, so they call me back like 2 or 3 days later, which at this time, I'm really not tripping over $24,000,
right.
Because I've got other money coming in. I was just basically in my mind, I chalked it up to taking a L. So they call me back. They tell me, yeah, you can come out here and get your money. We called a couple agencies and everything checks out. And, you know, you're not on anybody's watch list. So, yeah, just drive on down to get it. So that was like 2 hours for me. It didn't even leave the state of Texas yet. And, man, I get there. I go into the room. They bring me out like a property form. I sign it. They count the money for me, give it back to me. What was crazy, though, is I mailed 24,000 in 20s, right? And it was just tons of 20s. They paid me back in hundreds. I thought that shit was really weird. They didn't pay me, and this never came up later on in my case or anything. I just thought it was really weird. They didn't even give me back the money that I sent, you know? So, but yeah, anyway, I digress. But once that happened, and then once I got my package jacked, I'm like, we can't mail cash. All right, so here's when we're about to get into the meat of things, right? So my guy in Tyler is like, well, how do you want me to get you the money? I was like, look, I got a couple bank accounts. I'm going to go and have my ex-wife open a bank account. And I'm going to get my dad to open a bank account, and just don't deposit more than $9,000 each time. And we won't have to fill out any forms, which I ended up finding out later. That's what they called structured drops or structured payments. Yeah. And so he's like, cool. So like after the packages would go, he'd go to this bank and drop 7,000, this bank and drop 8,000. The next day, go to this bank and drop 8,000. And then once it got to me, I'd basically, I guess, re-launder it myself, because like I would take my dad's account where the money was in the bank, and then he would write a check to me for the amount, and then I'd put it in my other account. Right. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So all that shit was cool. You know, nothing ever happened. Life's going good. I'm still doing the music stuff. When I was in LA, everything kind of changed. Like, I got kind of complacent, you know, and it kind of got to the point where, you know, I was like, man, I really felt like I was untouchable when I definitely wasn't. Yeah. But like, so I'm just vacking pounds, and instead of double boxing it now, I'm just tying them in grocery bags. So I'm losing packs here and there. And, but one day I'm standing there with my dad, and the phone rings, and a local bank branch from Tyler who was calling them. And they said, hey, we just wanted to let you know that so-and-so deposited 26, or it was a shitload of money. It was a little under 30 grand or 28 grand. I can't remember the exact amount, into your bank account this morning. And it smelled so strongly of marijuana that we couldn't put it back in circulation. And so my dad's like looking at me like, what the fuck? He's like, okay.
But you own a dispensary, right? Like,
yeah, but this is money from Tyler.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is my.
So this isn't money that you deposited. No, this is money. What?
This is money that from the weed that I mailed to Tyler. When my guy had to make a payment in Tyler, he went and dropped it at a Texas bank. Okay. And then so they're calling my dad while we're in LA, telling him, hey, this money smells so strongly of weed, we couldn't put it back in circulation. And dude, this is a small bank branch in the Bible Belt, right? It's just my dad had banked there since like 1997 and just always had that account. And then he had ended up getting some of the bigger accounts, like big bank branches, you know? Right. And so they were like, we just want you to know that we still put it towards your available balance, but we just wanted to let you be aware of it. So take note of it. So my dad hangs up the phone and he tells me, and look, I'm so complacent, instead of that being a red flag to me. And dude, I realized when I went to prison and just kind of had time to reflect that like I should have been better to the people around me. You know, I was kind of just like super selfish, and he's telling me this shit, and I'm like, bro, do we get the money or not? Like, is it an L or not? And he's just like, well, yeah, they said the money would be available. So I'm like, cool. Then basically like, what are we talking about then? You know, when really I should have woke the fuck up. Right. You know,
I mean, keep in mind, they probably filled out a suspicious activity report, probably filled out a CCR. They probably forwarded all that shit to the IRS and the DEA.
That is exactly when the house of cards started to fall.
Okay.
That moment right there. And I found out later when I got my discovery packet, that's what started everything. So I called my guy and I'm like, hey bro, why did you make such a big drop? He was like, man, I didn't have time. You know, he was like, this shit's getting so time consuming going from point A to point B and dropping money here, money there. Like, bro, that shit takes me all day. I was in a hurry. So I just went and dropped it off through the drive-through at the bank. So imagine dropping like 30 bands through the drive-through at a bank that reeks of weed. So we're like, okay, cool. So get back to it. Business as usual. You know, nothing really exciting's happened. We're just on a routine. And about probably 2 or 3 weeks after that, my guy in Tyler calls me and he's like, bro, I just got fucking pulled over, leaving my house. They tore my car apart, literally like took it apart. I was out on the side of the road for a prolonged amount of time. And they told me straight up, like, we know what you're doing. We know who you're dealing with. We're coming for y'all. Like, it's over. It's a wrap.
Did you ask him who he was dealing with?
You know, so he's telling me like, bro, we got to stop. Like, they're on to us. They told me they know everything. Like, we got to chill. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's chill. So at that time, the dispensary was still doing okay enough that I didn't really need to be doing that. I did it out of greed.
Right.
And I did it because I didn't want to leave them hanging pretty much. And so
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sending you shit. Like, you're the one who wanted it. I don't need this. Like,
well, and I also looked at it like, in my mind, another thing, I'm like, bro, I'm in California. And like I said, I knew nothing about the judicial system, so I didn't know the difference between state and fed and misdemeanors and felonies and all that shit. So in my mind, I'm just like, bro, like, I'm a business owner in Cali. My dispensary was in the LA Times. Like, they don't have nothing to do with what I got going on.
Right.
You know? So he's like, yeah, I want to stop. And I'm like, that's fine. So goes back, business as usual. Life's still going cool. You know, the lease at the penthouse was ending and we were getting another apartment. You know, we were like transitioning, but it was still in the same area.
Right.
And so in between that time, we go back to Tyler and, you know, we catch up with family and friends and my buddy, who I was dealing with, he came over one time. There was no funny business going on. Like, he just came over. I think we smoked. We just caught up. You know, at this time, bro, like 7-8 months had gone by. At least 6 months. I can't remember an exact date, but I know it was more than 6 months where we hadn't done anything. You know, everything was completely done. No bank drops, no melon shit, nothing. So, and I thought it was just water under the bridge. So he comes over and we just hang out. He leaves. Oh, and then also, so another one of my buddies comes by. And, you know, because at this time I'm still eating a shitload of pain pills, you know, and one of my buddies comes by and I had bought like 100 hydrocodones off of them. And so I just got them in a Ziploc bag on my dresser, you know. So the next morning, about 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, my son's mom wakes me up shaking me. People are banging on the door. They said it's the police. I'm like, the police? Like, keep in mind, in my mind, I hadn't broken any laws in forever, you know, nothing major that would warrant a search warrant being served. And so I was like, nah. I thought it was like somebody fucking with me or swatting me, or, you know, because at that time I kind of had a lot of people hating on me because I'd made it out of the city and was always with these rappers that had money and the benzo and the watches and the chains, and motherfuckers are just salty about a lot of shit like that.
Right.
And bro, as soon as I go to the door, my whole life changed at that moment. Front door blows open. Literally, it's a steel door off the frame. Like, the frame's cracked. At first, I thought I was getting robbed because they all came in with ski mask on, vest, the assault rifles. You got the FBI there, Smith County Sheriff's Department there, Tyler PD. My house was in White House, Texas, which is like a suburb of Tyler. One White House cop there. Why? I have no idea. You know, fucking dogs. They had everything but fucking helicopters, right?
Right.
Streets blocked off. I guess they thought I was going to run. I was like 300 pounds in. Where am I going to fucking go?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and dude, I got the FBI telling me to put my hands up and not to move. At the same time, Smith County's telling me, get on your fucking knees and interlock your hands. I'm like, oh, well, which one,
is it?
what do I do?
Right.
You know, like my son's mom is like holding, you know, our son was a year old and she's just like cradling him like in tears. My dog is barking his fucking ass off. And I'm like, I'm just telling him, please don't shoot my dog. Please don't shoot my dog. I still got that dog to this day.
All right.
Shout out Gizzard. You know what I'm saying? He's 16. That's my dog. So I finally, you know, everything gets de-escalated and the Fed walks up to me. He goes, hey, we're here on a federal money laundering search warrant. We're here to confiscate all your electronic devices and we're looking for money. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. You know, he was like, I'll take you out of the cuffs once we clear the house. So they got like me in the front yard and basketball shorts and weed socks. And I remember the fucking piece of shit from Smith County cops like, yeah, those socks are the reason we're here. I was like, well, you're here for socks? And he was like, no, the weed leaves on it. And I'm like, okay. And I just remember that being like a stupid ass fucking comment.
Yeah.
But these dudes, you know, are just pieces of shit. You know, the dudes in the feds, like they were very respectful, very kind. They weren't trying to intimidate me. They weren't calling me names. They weren't disrespecting me. You know, the dude from Smith County, the lead investigator, he's in my face telling me, I've been waiting for this moment. You're fucking going down. It's over for you. Just talking cash shit. He was like, and don't even think about calling your buddy because we already hit his house this morning. All y'all are going down. I'm just like, okay. So I'm in the backyard. They're searching the house. They were there for probably 7 hours, you know, going through everything. Like, and I keep in mind, I'm living in Texas. I have a crazy arsenal of guns. I probably had at least 30 guns, right? And I had, around this time was during the Obama administration and there was an ammo shortage. So anytime I could get ammunition, I was just stockpiling it. So I had like 30 rounds of ammo, like, but all my guns were legit. They were all legal. They were all like bought from pawn shops or academy. So it was no dirty shit like that. And, but I remember they took it all and like they were stacking all my ammo up and they were like, yeah, you think you're the cartel. I don't think any of that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never on social media waving guns. I'm not talking about shooting ops. Like, I'm posting pictures with, like, my kid or posting pictures of me eating at a nice restaurant or flying first class or with these musicians or athletes or something. Like, but they got me painted out in their mind like I was just going to be, like, some disrespectful fucking asshole. So, like, they end up, they search the house and I have 2 pounds of weed there. And I got like 2 pounds of weed and like $12,000, right? Nothing major whatsoever. They came in and the guy from Smith County was like, just so you know, all your bank accounts are property of the U.S. government as of this morning, all this shit. So, and keep in mind, like, my pops is still in Los Angeles. You know, he's got like a whole life out there now. He's got like a new girlfriend that he's moved on. He's got friends. You know, he's reconnected with some of his family. Like, everything's good. And so, they end up fucking cuffing me. They take everything. Bro, they take all the money and they leave my son's mom like $300. And they were like, they take all our phones. So she doesn't even have a phone. He was like, you can give the phone to me and give me your code, your password, and you can take the numbers out and I'll read them to you. So she was able to write down the number she could. Now, boom, I'm in the county, right? So, I'm going to the county jail for the intake process. I'm still just baffled because in my mind, I'm like, bro, I haven't done shit in ages. I haven't done, like, I come to find out that there's really no time limit. I mean, there is a statute of
limitations.
Yeah. But, you know, it wasn't that far. This was like 6 months, 7 months. So I get down to the intake at the county jail. I see my guy in there too. And he's just like, yeah, they hit me this morning and I had some weed and some extract in my house too. And then I was like, damn. So he was like, and he's been through the system before,
Right.
he's been locked up. So I'm fucking freaking out. I'm green to this shit. And he's like, bro, don't worry. Like, we're going to get bond. Like, they really don't got shit. We're going to get a bond and get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, cool. So like, we're sitting there waiting. We're waiting for a couple hours, and they call him up to see the magistrate judge. And then he comes back over and he's like, hell yeah, bro, bond's $1,000. We're about to get the fuck out of here. He goes over to the phone. He calls his people. Hey, I got locked up. My bond's $1,000. Boom. He's about to get out. And then, cause when you go to the county and then you're sitting there during intake and they're like, raise your hand if you're making bond. And then so they're like, okay, the people that aren't making bond, you're going to go to the actual jail, and you need to go strip out, squat and cough, get your fucking jumpsuit. And so I'm like, and the phones you can just pick up and use for free in the county, in Smith County. And so I call my family and I'm like, hey, my boy just got his bond. It's only $1,000. So be on standby. When they call me up, I should be out, because we had the same charge on paper.
Right.
Just like, and really, I think his extract, the marijuana, because once again, this is like 2015. So all the shatter and dab, all the THC extracts really weren't a thing yet. So they were treating those as controlled substances out there, same as like meth or crack. That's how it's classified in the state of Texas.
So his looks worse. His situation looks worse than yours.
Yeah, on paper, and so I get up there and they're doing my fingerprint. I'm already smiling. I'm like, dude, I'm about to go home.
Right.
I'll get this shit behind me. They do my fingerprints and they do my mugshot. I'm actually smiling in my mugshot because I'm like, fuck these motherfuckers. I'm about to go home. They ain't got shit on me, basically. And then they were like, okay. And the lady tells me, I'll never forget. She was like, I've never seen this before. Your bond was set over the phone by a judge yesterday. Your bond's $150,000. I was like, 150 for possession of marijuana, a 4th degree felony in the state of Texas, a state jail felony. My bond's $150,000. She's like, yeah, I don't think this is right. Let me see. She starts making phone calls because she does that shit for a living. She's never seen somebody with a bullshit ass weed charge with $150,000 bond. So she was like, no, honey, it's right. It's right. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I go use the phone again, call my people. I tell them my bond's $150K. I don't know what you got to do, or I don't care what you have to do. Call this person, call that person. This guy owes me some money. This guy owes me some money. So-and-so in Cali's got this and that. And she's like, all right, I'm on it. I'll get you out of there. And she goes, but I'm going to call an attorney first. So she calls. Okay, so in Smith County, there's this guy. He's supposedly the best of the best. And, I'm going to tread lightly what I say. His name's Buck Files, right? I just know in my experience, he didn't do me right. He sailed me down the river, right? Now, I know that's maybe not everybody's case, but I got grade A fucked, right? So she calls him. He's like, yeah, I'll take the case on. Of course he will. And it was like, he wanted like 20 grand. And he's like, how much can you pay today? And then she was like, well, I was actually going to get the money together and bond him out. And he's like, well, let me look into it. So he looks everything up. He calls her back and he's like, hey, don't make that bond. Like, something's not right about it. There's no way he should be in there on a $150,000 bond for that charge. So just give me a little bit. I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. Keep in mind, while all this is happening, I've never been in trouble. I'm suffering, like fucking just going through it. My dude that was in there with me, he's already shaking my hand and telling me bye. He's gone, and I'm like, what the fuck? I was in another state. I wasn't doing no hand-to-hand, no dirt, and I'm fucking sitting here. I hadn't lived here in 3 years. And I come back, and 2-3 days after I've been back, my ass is in fucking jail, So the people across the street from my parents, right? Because like when I got raided, it was in my childhood home, my dad's house. That's where I'd stay when I'd go back to Texas.
Right.
And like it's in a nice area, which I'm really glad in retrospect that I live right across the street from the high school in a church. So I'm really glad that no school zone charges came out of it because it was right across the street.
Yeah, they can give you additional charges if it's like within 300 yards of a school. You can get enhancements and shit.
And blast your ass.
Yeah.
You know, turn a little doing 2 years into do it. Because I think in the state of Texas, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that the mandatory minimum on school zone charges is 10 years. Like I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's the case. So like, and also I meant to, so, you know, when they raided me and they're going through all my shit, I had those 100 pain pills that I just bought.
Right.
And like, which is hilarious to me now that like those never made it into evidence. Those, I swear, they never showed up on Discovery, none of that. And then, but I never got him back, you know, and he's like, oh, why do you have these pills? And I was like, for my back. I was like, dude, I just landed from LA like 2 days ago and I don't like flying with pill bottles. They take up too much room. And he was like, he was like, you know, that I can go, and this is a Smith County piece of shit talking to me. He's like, you know that I can go in there and have one of those federal guys make a call, and they'll be able to tell if you've ever had a prescription for those your entire life. I was like, do it. I do, man. They did. All my doctor hopping saved me. You know what I'm saying? Because in the state of Texas, that's a 5 to 99 alone. You know, you have a couple pain pills, that's a first-degree felony. Controlled substance, 5 to 99, 5 years minimum. If you go to prison, nasty shit, nasty work. So, but nothing ever came to fruition with that, luckily, because I was legit, you know, in a sense. So we, she ends up getting the attorney, you know, and the people across the street from my dad, they're the ones that the teacher, the kinesiology teacher at the junior college I was telling you about earlier that told me when I went on off the Zans, I shouldn't have done it cold turkey. Well, they have a family member that's a DPS officer. And they were out. I mean, dude, the whole neighborhood. These are people that watched me grow up since I was 10 years old. And like, everybody's walking out just so shameful, you know. I'm in fucking handcuffs in the front yard, you know, and just like cops everywhere pointing guns, and neighbors are trying to walk over to check on us. I'm sure they thought that I fucking killed somebody or something. And they're telling them like, get back, this is an active crime scene, all this fucking bullshit, right? So we but they had a friend that was a DPS officer, and the DPS officer made a call and was like, let me check. Dude, I had a shitload of pending charges, like racketeering, fucking transporting guns across state lines, commission of a felony with a firearm, like all this fucking, all these awful charges, right? So so at this point, I've let my hope go of I'm not going home today. Maybe I'll go home tomorrow, right? So every day I had to, they're dressing me out. They're, you know, got to use the fucking lice shampoo. You got to shower. And I've never been in a compromising position like that to some dude telling me out of them, squat, cough, wash your hair. Like, that shit was weird as fuck to me, foreign to me. And so I do it, stripped of my dignity. You know, I'm in.
Spread your ass cheeks. Let me see your asshole.
Yeah, dude. Weird ass shit. And I think a lot of those weird motherfuckers like that shit. Fucking weird ass. What grown ass man would want that fucking job? You know what I'm saying? Like squat and cough, weird shit. Bend over, spread them. But like, so I fucking go down there. I get and where I was at in Smith County, it's kind of set up like a dorm. You know, and so I go in there. I get there real late. I got raided at like 5:36 in the morning. I don't make it to a bed until like 2 a.m. You know, it's like an all day thing.
Right.
So I go in there. I meet a couple people. They're cool. You know, they're asking me, you know, hey, man, what are you in here for? I tell them, man, I got raided for weed, you know. And they're like, raided for weed? That don't sound right. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't, you know. So finally, the next day, that attorney comes and sees me. You know, the one that Buck Files, the one that my family had retained. He comes down there and he's like, look, I told your family not to make your bond because I feel your bond's basically a trap. Like they're wanting to see, I guess they didn't find the cash that they expected to find at my house. And they want to make sure you don't have any money out here that you're hiding. And if you make that bond, I think it's going to make things worse for you. So just give it a couple days. I'm going to get you a bond reduction. And then you can get out on the bond reduction. I ended up doing like 55 days waiting for a bond reduction,
Right.
you know? And so at this time, like my guy I was doing all this with, you know, he's living life. You know, he's going to work. He's coming and going, and I'm just like, damn, you know, I'm, and like it's at the point where all the resources are dried up. The money that I had is all being spent on attorneys, plus the cost of living still going on for my family. That you know they're starting to like sell their shit. They're selling all my valuable shit so they can just because the attorneys basically like a storm's coming, prepare for it. Like something's not right. So. He keeps coming and seeing me, coming and going, and he was like, look, I got some information. All this started with a deposit that was put in your bank account that smelled like marijuana. Do you remember that back in? And he told me the date. I was like, yeah, I remember that. He was like, so this is how that it was just bad timing because the security guard that worked at the bank overheard the two tellers talking about it. And he said, oh, I only do security here part-time. I'm actually a Tyler police officer. Why don't you give me the names of the guy who dropped it off? And why don't you give me the name of the account that it was going in? And I'll call my buddy in the narcotics division and see if something's weird going on. That's what sparked the whole investigation. So they reach out to the Tyler Narcotics. They keep in mind they got my guy on tape dropping it off in the drive-through. He had to show his ID, fill out a tax form. So they got all his info. Then they have my info because it was going into my account. And then from my account, they can see the people I'm connected with. They see my dad. They see that that his under employment, it says like Platinum Star Healthcare because that was the dispensary. So it's like all connected. And then they start subpoenaing all these banks and credit card companies and getting all this information. And the whole time we were just out there like running strictly the dispensary, and I quit mailing stuff back home was the whole time that they were building an investigation.
Right.
They were just waiting for the opportunity to strike. And they did, So So one day after going back and forth, my attorney's telling me, oh, well, I think I can beat this. It's all really circumstantial, all this type of shit. And then he comes back the next day and he's like, look, and like I said, I don't know how much of this is true. That attorney greatly led me down the wrong path.
Right.
He knew I was naive. He was playing stuff up to my family like, this is very serious. There's nothing we can do. Hey, this is a serious crime. If it goes federal, that'll be his best. Or if it stays federal, that'll be his best bet. But right now, I only had a state charge. I haven't even been indicted for the money laundering. I'm just sitting there on a weed charge. He's just trying to get in front of it. So he comes to me and he tells me this. He was like, look, I got a call this morning from the DA or the police. I can't remember what he said. He was like, they want you to do a proffer agreement. Do you know what that is? And I was like, not at all. I don't know shit about any of this. Right. He was like, well, look, they asked your guy to do a proffer and he said he would do it, which I don't know if that's true or if he lied to me. He was like, right. He said he would do it, but he hasn't been able to retain an attorney. And you need to have an attorney to do the proffer. And he wasn't able to retain one yet. You need to do it. And it'll definitely look good if you do it. Like he was like, they already got y'all dead to rights. They got videos, bank records, text messages. The main thing that they care about is they just want to know how you were getting the marijuana here. Right. And I was telling like, bro, I'm not about to go testify against anybody. He was like, no, this isn't. He was like, that's not even part of this. They just want to know how you got the weed here. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll do whatever you think is best. Right. So he's like, that's what's best for you. That way, because at this point, he's basically telling me me, like, we just got to get in front of this. You're going to get in trouble for the marijuana charge, but if we just tell them how you were getting the weed here, they're not going to charge you guys with anything else. Like, it's just going to be this. And he was like, I'll get you probation, state jail felony probation. You can go back home to LA. I was like, okay. So like a week later, they call me in to do the proffer. Well, I go and I sit down in that room and like, I'm like, where's my attorney? And they're like, because the guy comes and sits down and he's like, oh, Mr. Campos, listen. I'm like, where's my attorney at? And he was like, oh, your attorney didn't show up. And I was like, bro, I don't even know what the fuck this is. I'm not about to do I'm just following his lead, you know? And he's like, well, let me make some phone calls, right? So I'm like, okay. So then my attorney sends a bondsman down there, a bondsman that works with. Yeah. And he's a great guy, Tim McLemay, Spartan bondsman. If you're ever locked up in East Texas, holla at him. But like, dude is a great fucking guy, and really, he saved my life. Right. Like, and he's like, he ex-cop. He saw how fucked up East Texas justice is, and after he did that shit for years and just how they set people up and fuck them over, he's like, I can't be on that side of the law anymore. So he became like a forensic analyst, right? And then he would do the bail bondsman shit, and attorneys would hire him to basically, you know, go through technological devices to like pull information off of it and stuff like that. So he comes in there and he sits down. I'd only met him though. I hadn't met him. That was the first time I met him. Okay. So he sits down and I'm like, bro, I don't even know what this is. And he's like, man, just follow my lead. I'll tell you what to answer or what not to. You know, I won't let you say anything incriminating. And I'm like, all right, cool. So, you know, they're basically just asking me like, how are you getting all the shit here? And I tell them like, bro, I would just vacuum seal it, put it in a box, put that box in another box and mail it. And like, I guess they didn't like that answer. They were expecting it to be like I went to this guy and gave it to him and went to this. I
meet with my cartel contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
smuggle it in through Arizona. No, it was nothing like that. I'm just like, bro, I literally just put it in a box. I take it to USPS or UPS or whatever and just ship it. He's like, oh, how are you really getting here? I'm like, bro, that's how I'm doing it, you know? So then he starts getting pissy about everything, and the cop does. The lead investigator was a dude, Greg Harry and Adam Mackey. Like I was telling you, one of them's like in Homeland Security now, and the other one's still probably doing shady shit in East Texas. I don't know. That's a dude that was just talking shit to me the whole time. Like, the dude literally told me, take a look at your son. You're not going to be seeing him for years. Just hoe ass shit like that. And piece of shit, in my opinion, in my experience. And so we do it. We're talking in the proffer. I'm really over it. And then this dude's like taunting me, talking about, you want a candy bar? I was like, I don't want no fucking candy bar. He's like, well, I figure it'll be a while before you can just get a candy bar that easily. I'm like, they're on commissary, dumbass. Yeah. You know, dude was just really a piece of shit.
There's so probably, there's probably a store man in the unit. You walk up and say, hey, man, you have a candy bar?
Yeah, sure. Exactly. So this is when shit gets fucked up. You know, he tells me, well, hey, we saw on your text messages that your son's mom was in Tyler like fucking a year ago type shit. And they tell me the date, and they said, and you hit up your guy out here and you told him that she was out here and told him to leave money out and that you were going to send her by to pick it up. And I was like, yeah. Okay. He was like, did she know what that money was for? I was like, not at all. I just told her, hey, my buddy's going to leave some money out for you, or leave some money out for me. And if you don't mind, when you have a chance, since you're going to be in the town, run by and pick it up for me. She said, cool, no problem. I was like, you got our text message. You saw that's all that was said. And he was like, well, I have a hard time believing that she would have a child with a drug dealer and not know where his money's coming from. And I was like, well, like I said, we didn't have a conversation about it.
Yeah. And then, you own a dispensary, and
I'm doing the jewelry shit.
Selling jewelry. Exactly. Like there's many numerous reasons why he could be picking up. He could owe me that fucking money for a vehicle or for any reason 10 years ago when he finally came into the money.
Exactly. And it was like, I remember that. It was like $16,000, right? And so she goes and she got it for me. And then he was like, yeah, and what's your dad think about all this? I was like, you'll have to ask him. Like, I can't tell you what he thinks about it. He's in California. And he was like, well, you were using his bank accounts too. Did he know about that? And I was like, I said, man, the only thing that people around me are guilty of is loving me. That's it. You know, I didn't pull them into my shit intentionally. I just would say, hey, I got somebody that's going to drop some money. I'm going to have them send it to your account, and I'm going to need you to go get it out for me. That's all that was it.
Right.
And,
Plus, I thought the proffer was only supposed to be about how I was shipping stuff.
Exactly.
What are we talking about here?
And so he tells me, oh, I've had enough. I just want you to know that when you get back to the tank, you need to call them and let them know to get a lawyer because I'm indicting them too. And I was like, what the fuck? So I'm sitting there looking at the bondsman like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, and that fucking first attorney, I'm really trying to not say anything bad about him, but like, bro, sell me down a fucking river. I only did that shit because he told me that I should have done it and that it would look good. We're going to get in front of it turning into an indictment if we just tell them how people are getting drugs there to now I'm walking out and I just took a L. Now my people are getting indicted. And then this dude's sitting here fucking taunting me, talking about like, you know, you may need to make arrangements with your kid. Nobody's going to be around. That's all. He kept tugging on that kid string the whole time. You know, just a piece of fucking garbage, right? And I would tell him like, bro, leave my fucking kids out of it. You know, like, or I only had one then, but leave my kid out of it, bro. He's innocent. He has nothing to do with this shit. You should have thought about that. He was on that type of shit.
Yeah.
So I leave, that shit's over. The bondsman's telling me, but the bondsman's even telling me like, this shit's fucked up. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'll at that point I started communicating with him more, you know, because he was the only guy shooting me straight. The attorney was just giving me the runaround, playing games with me. And so I go back to the tank and I call my family and I'm like, look, they said they're indicting y'all because you picked up that money and I was putting money in y'all's bank accounts. And she's like, what the fuck? And so I'm like, yeah, you know, and they said that you need to get an attorney. I don't know what's going on. You know, I should have never done that. I should have never talked to these people. And so finally, like 2 weeks after that, my attorney gets a bond reduction. So after like fucking 55 days, I get out, right?
What'd they reduce it to?
Like 40,000 or something, 40,000, 30,000. It was doable, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think because the same bondsman, me and him have been in communication now, and he's like, man, just tell your people I got it. I think my people took him like 2 Rolexes that I still had out there,
right,
and then gave him like $1,000, and he just held it until everything was over and got me out because he had to make my bond again when I got indicted for the organized crime. So I'm out now. Everything's, you know, now I'm actually able to sit down in my lawyer's office and look at the discovery and go over shit and talk to him about shit. And this dude's still just giving me the fucking runaround, you know? So he tells me, he goes, well, I got great news. I got, the feds aren't going to prosecute you. And I was like, nice. You know, he was like, yeah, you know, we got to take care of some stuff, but you can go back to LA. You know, you can keep running your business. You'll be okay. So I'm like, cool. So I was like, man, that cop was just bullshitting. They're not fucking indicting anybody. He was just trying to scare me. You know, he's full of shit. He's just a bully. And then like, so like 2 days, 3 days later, my that attorney called me again and he's like, I got some bad news. Are you sitting down? And I was like, no, what's up? He was like, y'all are all being charged with first degree engaging in organized criminal activity in the state's prosecuting you. And I'm like, in my mind, I didn't know, like, yeah, I always thought the feds was worse. I didn't know shit about it. So I'm like, oh, well, at least the state's prosecuting. But then, like I said, I didn't know about the point system. The Fed charge would have been a year and a half. Now the state of Texas can give me fucking 99 years if they really wanted to. Right. They won't, but they could. And, but I'm just like, okay, well, you know, I'll come out there and I'll talk to you. He's like, yeah, you need to have your dad fly in because they're going to talk to a grand jury and y'all are going to be indicted and y'all are going to have to go turn yourself in. And he was like, but don't worry, I'm going to have it set up to where as soon as y'all walk in, you bond right out.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. And they ended up like my guy I was sending stuff to, they like, bro, they were putting people that I never even met. They were just people that he was selling to that I never even seen with my own two eyes were getting charged with this shit too. And so like, we go through all that shit. We bond ourselves. We all turn ourselves in. We bond back out. And like, then I start understanding the gravity of the situation. You know, I understand like how serious this shit is. And so like, and like I was telling you yesterday, so finally I'm on pretrial supervision, right? Because I have crazy ass bond conditions.
Right.
I have to go piss once a week. I got to call them every day. You know, but what was also fucking crazy is they were still allowing me. I was able to go back to California. I was able to go back to California and run my dispensary while I was on bond for selling weed from my dispensary and sending it to Texas. But I'm having to piss out there once a week at a trusted source, and I got to mail the results, like, the clinic has to fax the results back to Texas to the prosecutor,
right,
or to the probation department. So I go out there, I do all that shit. I'm just running the dispensary. I'm not smoking or anything. I'm walking like a tight, straight and narrow. I'm just doing that to make money and shit. And then like, and I had to come down every once in a while. So I go out there, and my dad comes with me, and we're all sitting at a big ass table, and my attorney comes in. He's like, I got great news. He's got a huge smile on his face. I'm like, hell yeah. Like his energy felt like he's got great news. They threw all this shit out or something. He was like, I talked to the DA, and he made me a deal that I really think you should take. And I was like, well, what is it? He was like, he's going to give your dad and your son's mom probation, and he's going to give you 35 years. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah.
What a bargain.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I was like, 35 years. Like my mind was fucked up. I'm like, bro, I'm not about to go do 35 years. And he was like, it's a great deal. If we take it to trial, they're going to eat us alive. And y'all are dead. They got all the text messages between you guys. They got all the bank records. There's nothing to fight. Like, you guys are signed, sealed, and delivered. It's a done deal. I'm like, bro, I know you can do better in 35 years. And this fool had the audacity to tell me, look at it like this. You go down there, you keep your head down, because they offer college courses in Texas prison. He was like, you can go down there and pass the bar. You can get out and be an attorney. And
you'd be a piece of shit attorney just like me.
He was like, and if you do everything the right way and you stay out of trouble, you'll be out of prison by your son's 18th birthday. And like, that shit, still just saying it makes my fucking heart sink. Just makes me sick to my fucking stomach. Like, I look at my dad, and I'm just like, and he knows, my dad's like my best friend. He knows that I'm giving him that fuck this shit type. In my mind, I'm really thinking, do we have, what family in Mexico do we have that's still cool? I'm about to fucking get the fuck out of here, you know? So he's like, well, I want you to think about it. He was like, just think about it. It's the best deal you're going to get. You don't understand how serious a first degree engaging in organized crime charge is. And I was like, all right. So I leave, and I call that bondsman, and I'm just like, because now I just like tell him everything. He's, like I said, he's the only person keeping it straight with me. And I'm like, is this true? Is this the best deal that I can fucking get? And he was like, look, man, you may want to explore some other options. I got another guy that you can call, and I think he'll be able to do you a lot better. So this is when Jason Parrish comes in. That's my dog too right now. He's a great guy, was honest. He also saved my life. Like, between Tim and Jason, my new attorney, those guys, you know, got me. That's why I'm sitting here with you today, and
instead of not waiting for commissary.
Yeah, dude. I worked for commissary in there, so I didn't have to wait. You know what I'm saying? I go to the store anytime I want. You know, weird flex, right? So like, no, I go and I talk to the other attorney, and I tell him everything, and this guy's like, bro, what the fuck? He's like, I would have never, and I was like, what, what's the proffer thing? He's like, bro, I would have never had you do that proffer. I would have never let you have like any fucking contact with these guys. I would have fucking got this thrown out, that thrown. I'm like, well, fuck, man, how much do you want?
Right.
And he really gave me hope, because at this time I've been on bond going back and forth from LA to Texas. Like it was like 9 months before I actually signed for time. And like, and so I'm talking to him. He was like, look, I can't. The thing that was so cool about that guy is like, I think he wanted like 15 or 20,000, and we only had like half the money because by this time our funds are fucking depleted, right? And he took the money, and then like when he got all my shit back that the cop seized, he like kept a bunch of the guns and took it off the bill, and then I paid him back off once I came home, and he was just totally cool with it, like he's a really good guy. His heart's in the right place, and he knew even though I should have been held accountable that I wasn't some fucking monster. I wasn't out there fucking selling hard drugs to kids. Like it was fucking weed.
Right.
Nobody was getting hurt. We weren't robbing people or killing people or any of that shit. I would never. I'm a nice guy, and I really am. And so we're going back and forth, and then so my first attorney, now keep in mind he's still my attorney on paper, and then I was like, well, what do we have to do? And I can't remember what my new attorney told me. He's like, well, I have to file a motion to relieve counsel, and then I can become your counsel. He's like, don't worry, I'll take care of all that. And I was like, all right, thank you. So at that time, my old attorney is still calling me over and over and over. And then so I finally answer and I'm like, hello? He's like, I've been calling you. And I was like, well, I didn't recognize the number because it wasn't like his cell phone.
Right.
And he was like, well, that's because I told you I had open heart surgery today. I'm about to go in the operating room in 20 minutes. I got to know, are you going to sign for the 30 years? I need to tell the DA by today. Swear to God. Dude was calling me from his hospital bed to try to pressure me into signing for 30 years. I was like, yeah, man, I'm not going to do it. I'm just letting you know I'm not going to do it. Like, oh, you're making a huge mistake. I'm telling you, that's what you paid me for. I'm doing, you don't understand. If you don't sign for this, all y'all are going to be gone. And now he's saying like, well, think about your son. Where will he end up? I'm like, I'll take my chances, bro. Because now my new attorney, Parrish, he's kept it real with me.
Right.
He's letting me know like, dude, you're not going to do fucking 35 years. Just relax, And so he gets the paper, I guess a couple days later, that he's been like relieved of counsel because he had like still called and kind of like said some snidey shit like, oh, you could have just told me if you didn't want me to represent you. I'm like, bro,
fuck you.
Basically, you know what I'm saying, bro? You're sitting here trying to pressure me into 35 years, acting like it's a good deal. So my new attorney comes in. We get a whole bunch of shit taken care of because he's like, first, even though, the state looks at it like one illegal dollar taints all this money. He was like, let's make a packet and a timeline and let's just show what we can account for as legitimate money in these accounts, right? So I start reaching out to like the artists that I've done jewelry for, and I'm like, hey, is there any way that you or somebody at the label could, write a letter or just a paragraph and sign it with the letterhead saying that we purchased this jewelry? And they're like, yeah, cool. So I get a bunch of those letters from like musicians that I've done stuff for, and then I print all the pictures out, and like they make like a packet.
Right.
So my attorney's going back and forth with the DA. And he's like, he actually calls me. He's like, bro, I need you to come to town. I got great news. So I'm like, bet. I go to town. He goes, man, I got that shit dropped from 1st degree organized crime down to 3rd degree money laundering. And I'm like, okay. He was like, you just went from 5 to 99 to 2 to 10. So now even if they want to throw the book at you, we can take them to trial if we want. The most you're going to get is 10 years. Dude, I'm like, hell yeah. So worst case, I'll be home when my son's 11, not when he's fucking 18, and then still have another 17 years on parole. And he was like, yeah. He goes, look, and because at that time, I think my guy I was sending stuff to, I don't know if he had already signed for his time, but they ended up reducing his too. So like he was like, yeah, man, they couldn't
He didn't sustain those charges.
Yeah. And another thing that's crazy is once they changed me and my guys to money laundering, another dude that had a similar case from like 3 years prior, the exact same thing, they charged him with first degree engagement in organized criminal activity.
Right.
When I was in the county waiting to go to prison, he popped up. And he's like, and we'd always known of each other and talked to each other, like talked about each other, because he was another big weed plug out there. And he's like, dude, I want to tell you, thank you. You don't know, but I had buck files too. He talked me into doing the same shit. He had me sign. He signed for like 30 years, first degree engagement in organized crime.
Jesus.
He said this guy told me that I was gonna get regular parole. So he said on my sentence that I would see parole in 2 years. When I got to intake, they told me that organized crime's treated aggravated, and so it's going to be like either 10 or 15 years before I see parole. But the only reason I signed is he told me I'd be home in 2 years.
Who told you this? Who told this was a good attorney?
Everybody. I mean, he's the guy out there that gets people off with murders, gun charges. So, yeah, he's like the real deal. He's like he was highly coveted. I don't know about him now, but so, and I'd always hear like him getting like somebody's drunk and gets in a wreck and kills somebody, and like they get probation and like just shit like that. You know, maybe he has some vendetta against weed. I really don't fucking know. But like, so, but the guy was telling me like, dude, thank you, because like your charge, he was at his unit licking his wounds, expecting to do 15 years. He goes, bro, they told me to pack it up, to leave, and they brought me back here because they're taking me into court next week and they're redoing my charge and reclassifying me as money laundering. And like, and bro, as soon as he signed and they switched his charge from organized crime to money laundering, he made parole over the phone. Like, because he had so much back time, he was past his parole date, and so luckily, you know, like Parrish ended up like blessing a lot of people's game just because he did what should have been done from the beginning.
Right.
You know, now, and then everybody else got, you know, probation for the shit. And then like, so basically I go in court, and this is what's pretty funny. So I signed for my time, and I turn around and like, and once I signed for the time, they told me like, they gave me I don't know, I can't remember if I signed and then they gave me, but I had to go to court twice. I think once was to sign and the other one was sentencing.
Once to plead guilty and one is to be sentenced.
Okay, that's what it was. So, dude, everybody else has already signed for probation. Like, you know, my homeboy I was doing everything with, he's already like in the county. He had already signed, and like, so it was my turn to sign, right? So the two cops were at my court date, right? And they were, every time I'd have an appearance in court, I'd turn around and they'd be sitting in the court, like just so emotionally invested in this shit that really it was fucking weird. They're weird ass dudes. Like, bro got a hard on for me that bad. Like, I'm selling weed, bro. Like, I know it's East Texas, but there's people out here with real shit going on. Why are you focused on me?
Right.
I guess maybe it's because it was like a 2-year investigation. Maybe they feel like they wasted the county's resources. I don't know. I tried to add them on Facebook. They won't accept my friend request, you know. And then they blocked me. I just wanted them to see it because they're telling me you're done. You're going to be gone. I just wanted them motherfuckers to know I'm back, bitch. You know. So you know, they're in the court, and then like Honorable Judge Kennedy, that's who sentenced me, she was a really strict ass judge, stern, no nonsense, but I guess like, you know, her heart grew 3 sizes that day because like my defense attorney and her were really had a good working relationship, and dude, anything like she was very kind, you know, when she could have not been, you know, she could have really just been like, I don't care what the DA wants. You know, what's crazy is like, so before Christmas, cause I ended up signing for my time in January, and before Christmas, there was a DA out there, and he's like, hey, tell your guy, he told my attorney, tell your guy if he signs today, I'll give him 4 years. And then so my attorney calls me. He's like, hey, man, he said, if you fly in town and sign today, he'll give you 4 years. And I said, well, should I do it? And he was like, in my mind, I still don't want to go to fucking prison.
Yeah.
I've never been. When I was in the county for 60 days, I hated life, you know. He was like, well, I told him you really want probation, you know, that you'll do 8 to 10 years probation. But he said, we'll reconvene after the holidays. I told him you're out of town. And it was like Christmas. It was like a week before Christmas. So Christmas ends, New Year's Eve ends, and then so I called my attorney. He was like, did you think about the 4 years yet? I said, yeah, because I talked to a couple of my friends that had been to prison. Right. I said, fuck it, bro, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sign for the 4 years. Just see if you can buy me a week or two to get my affairs in order. So he calls, and then now they won't honor it because that DA went to a different office, and the DA that was there in January was like, I'm not letting him walk with 4 years. Are you fucking crazy? So now he's like, the most I'll do is 10, or the least I'll do is 10. And my attorney's like, if we're going to do 10, like,
why wouldn't he go to
just
trial?
Go to trial.
The most he can get is 10.
Exactly. So then they finally offer me 7.
Right.
And then I was like, dude, fuck it. In my mind, I'd already looked at the time charts on the internet to see how much am I going to have to do on the 4 and all this shit. So I ended up signing for the 7. And yeah. I signed for the 7 when I should have did the 4, but slow feet. I should have just jumped on it. Said I'll get on a plane right now and do that shit. But I also didn't know how much fuckery went on. Look, before all this happened, I had hope and faith in the justice system.
That's a mistake.
Oh, without a doubt. But now don't get me wrong, like growing up where I grew up and doing the type of shit, I would always get pulled over. Even if I was riding clean, they're going to pull me out the car. Bro, swear to God, I can't even count how many times I've been held at gunpoint by police just on some like, get out of the car on a traffic stop because the car smells like weed. They got their gun out telling me to get out the car. Like Smith County, East Texas is fucked up. That's why I'll never go back to that motherfucker. I don't even like visiting there. Some of my favorite restaurants are there. I never go back. Fuck that shit. Because I feel like these dudes were so weirdly obsessed with the case. I don't want to step foot back in there. I don't know what they're capable of. Especially now that one's the fucking Secret Service. Like, goddamn motherfucker. Reach out and touch somebody. I want no problems with you, though. I'm sure you're doing great out there. Cheers. So I signed for the 7 years, and then I just hear all these scoffs. And my attorney turns around, I turn around, and those cops were back there. And he literally, he's at the back row of the court, and he's like, God damn it. And he pushes the door open. The other one's like, this is bullshit. The judge is like, tat, tat, tat. Yeah, you be quiet. Get out of my courtroom. And my attorney is a bad motherfucker. He's just laughing at him. And then I looked at him, and I'm just itching my head doing this. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I was a different guy then. Yeah. Now I would just take it on the chin, be humble about it, just thank God for what I got. But back then I was like, motherfuckers thought you were going to kill me. You know what I'm saying? So like, I went, they told me after I signed for the time, they gave me like 2 weeks to get my affairs in order. And like, spent some time with family, lined some shit up, and then I flew in. I was still living in LA at the time too. So I flew in from Los Angeles to the Dallas airport. One of my best friend's sisters picked me up from the airport, drove me to my then brother-in-law's house, and I spent the night over there. And then he took me to prison the next morning, dropped me off at the door, and I walked in and was just like, hey, I'm here for prison. I'm just turning, I'm ready to start my time. And they're just like, okay, so you know how all that goes. Then I had to go back through intake. But what's crazy as fuck is like I sit in the county for like 6 months. I've already signed for my time. I'm waiting to catch chain. Right. And I'm just like, so I'm calling my attorney. My attorney's so cool. Anytime that he has like a client that he has to see at the county, he'll pull me out of my cell and just talk to me. Be like, hey man, how you doing? Here's some chips. Here's a Coke. Everything all right in there? I'm like, bro, why have I not went to prison yet? I'm ready. Because when you get into the county, all the old school dudes that have been down before,
Yeah.
they're like, oh man, prison's so much better than the fucking county, and you got TVs and phones and commissary you can go anytime you want depending on the unit. Like, they're making it sound like a fucking vacation spa or something. And dude, the county,
But I mean, it is.
it is in comparison to the county.
Yeah, in comparison, yeah.
Dude, like, the county was so rough. The first 2 or 3 weeks I was there, I was sick as hell because, like everything else in Smith County, at least then, like, there's an old jail and a new jail, and I was at the old one, and dude, that you could just look in and see all the black mold around the baseboard. So, like, first couple weeks you come in, everybody's sick as hell, you know? And, like, so I just felt like shit, and I'm asking my attorney, I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, why am I still here? Everybody else, they got to wait, like, 2 months max, and I've been here going, like, 5.5. What's up? He's like, man, let me make some calls. Something's not right about that. Well, apparently, I don't know if it was I'm sure it was just an honest mistake, but the DA forgot to file my plea agreement with the county clerk. So I've just been dry sitting in there. So they end up filing it. Next day I'm on chain. Go to TDC. TDCJ, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where your dreams go to die. All right. So it's like, so this is one of the things I was wanting to tell you. All right. So in the state of Texas, one thing that's weird, like, you would think, right, if you're here for 7 years, are you going to house this guy with somebody that's got a life sentence that killed 3 people? Are you going to put them in a cell together?
I mean, you shouldn't.
Okay, that's what I would think too, right? So,
but it goes by security level. You know, so not. I mean, I don't know I obviously I don't know all prisons. They're all different. Like the intake, it always kills me with the intake. And like in Florida, they'll put guys that should be in a camp in with pin guys. And it's like, I'm in here with a guy who's got a life sentence for killing 6 people, and I have tax fraud.
Yeah.
Like, I got 2 years for tax fraud. How am I in the same unit as this guy, or same cell as this guy? That's in, like, let's say Florida.
Well, that's how it is in Texas too. That's what I was going to tell you this story about this guy that I met. So as soon as I get to TDC, like, I go through, like, the intake unit, because out there they're shaving your head, they're shaving your beard, they're fucking giving you lye soap to scrub your body down, and you're just lined up like cattle. Those guys will yell, nuts to butts, nuts to butts. You pack them in tight, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's just weird ass motherfuckers, bro. So it's like I'm in the county, and you go through classification. They take your blood, they do your fingerprints again. You go and see, like, the warden of the unit. They give you classification, or your is it maybe classification levels, but just to assign your custody level, right? So I'm assuming everybody that I'm there with, I'm assuming, like, all the fucking crazy people go somewhere else, or all the people with really violent charges go somewhere else. So I met this dude who was my cellie at Gurney. That's where I did my intake. Dude was so cool, like, nice ass dude. Was giving me, like, he was like, man, I just did a 15-year bid. I had to do 11 years on it, and I'm back down now. I got a lot of time, but I'm not doing no tripping. But I didn't ask him, because another dude told me, hey, when you get there, until you get settled in, don't just start walking up to people asking them their charge and how much time they got. Right. So I'm just really minding my own business, And but me and this guy are real cool, like, and we're there together for like 2 weeks, and like, dude's like 6'3" black dude swole as fuck, like, and really I'm like, damn man, I need to start working out, get my shit right. I got this time. And so he's like giving me workout tips and shit, and like, just super, like, a sweet guy, right? So one day after we've gotten to know each other more, and I'm just telling him stuff about, like, the tours I've been on and the people I've done jewelry for and the dispensary, and I told him my case. I said, bro, if you don't mind me asking, what are you in here for? And he was like, man, nothing too bad. It's just homicide, murder, and like, but he downplayed it so much, and I'm like, I laughed. I'm like, nah, dude, for real. He's like, nah, murder. I got 45 years. And I was just like, damn, bro, what the fuck? Didn't you just do like 12, 13 years? He's like, yeah, I had aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I did like 12 years on it. I came home and now I got this 45 years. And I was like, how long were you on the streets? He was like 3.5 months. And then I was like, damn. He's like, you want to know what happened? And like this dude set up, his eyes lit up. And bro, but look, here's what's crazy, right? This is when I knew shit was real. This is when I realized like shit ain't sweet in here. When I see this grown man that could literally snap my fucking neck without even thinking twice, like no matter what I did, like this dude was just, he was bad news for anybody that wanted to cross him, right. So he's like telling me, he's like, yeah, man. So I came home and I just hear everybody sipping syrup and smoking weed now. So I just wanted to get some syrup. And I was like, okay, which in Texas, it's really big everywhere, but in Texas, it's really big. Syrup is like promethazine and codeine, lean, drink, all that type of stuff. And so he was like, so I met this girl who was my girlfriend. And I asked her, he was like, do you have any friends that got any drink? And then she was like, yeah, my best friend's boyfriend sells it. And he's like, cool, could you call him for me? I just want a little deuce, and a deuce is like 2 ounces of it, right? And so she's like, yeah, I'll call him. So she calls her best friend. Her best friend tells her man, hey, my best friend's man wants a deuce of drink. Can you serve him? And he's like, yeah, I got you. So the dude walks up, comes over, gives him the 2 ounces of drink. The guy gets it, shakes his hand. Thanks, bro. I got your number now. I'm gonna fuck with you in the future. So the guy who's my cellie, he's telling me he gets the drink and he drinks that shit, and he said it's fake. Right? So he goes, man, when that shit was fake, I got pissed. So I called him and I said, hey man, that shit wasn't real. I need my money back. And he said, the dude was like, nah. And he was like, look, man, I don't want no problems. I'm trying to live my life right. Like, I just want the money back. And he goes, and man, that fool told me drink, sold, money, fold, and hung up on me. He goes, I knew in that moment that I was going to kill him. And I was like, damn. Yeah.
Jeez, how much did he take from him?
$100.
You're going to kill somebody for $100?
And that's what that's when I asked him. He said, it's the principle of it.
Come on, bro. Stop.
Swear to God. Right. So he tells me, so he was like, so next what I did is I asked my girl where her best friend lived, because her dude would always come over there. And then she told me. And so I sat outside and I waited. He goes, I waited outside her house for 3 days. He was like, I was pissing in beer bottles. I was putting my cigarettes in beer bottles. I wasn't leaving no trace of DNA. He had his girl rent him a car, and he told her what he was going to do. She rented the car for him. So he said he sits outside for 3 days. He said, just as I was going to leave, he goes, this is how I knew he was supposed to die. Is right when I was about to leave, I just put my cigarette out because I had to take the rental back the next day. As I'm driving out, about to drive off, I see him walk out his door going across the street to Golden Chick, which is like a chicken franchise out there. And he goes, and I just waited. And bro, when he tells me he gets giddy, he's like, man, my heart started racing. Man, I put one in the chamber. I was waiting. Bro, that's when I knew shit was real. And I had to realize, like, this ain't fun and games. Like, this dude is full of joy and excitement reliving this shit.
Right.
And it was really kind of terrifying to me, because I've been eating spreads with this guy, eating ramens and chips and working out with this guy, and he gets excited talking about murder. I get excited talking about money. This dude, we're different levels, So he said the dude comes out, and as he's walking back down the street, he's like, bro, it was hilarious. I jumped out. I told him, hey, motherfucker, drank, sold, money, fold. And he turned around and I just started lighting him up. I shot that fool 8 times in his chest. He goes, the gun had them cop killers in it too. He was doing 360s. He goes, man, I left him on the sidewalk. I drove home. He goes, I went home, I fucked my bitch, I went to sleep, I woke up the next morning, got on Facebook, and I seen everybody talking about pray for him. He goes, I guess everybody in my friend group knew him. And so I was like, damn. He was like, yeah, I wasn't tripping. You know, he was in ICU, but I knew he was going to die. There ain't no way. He was like, if he can live through that, he deserves to live. He goes, but I knew he wasn't going to make it. So like the dude ends up dying, right? And then like, and the next day, like he had to take the rental back that night. The cops are already, he said he hears a helicopter over his girl's apartment because he had parked that rental car down the street. So he said they got in her car and left the apartment. He said as they drove by, he seen them dusting the door handle of the rental for prints. And so... Right, and this was my introduction. This is the first story I've heard when I got to the pen when people were telling me what they were there for. So he tells me, he goes, yeah, man, and then I really started thinking. I got paranoid. I didn't want to go back. He goes,
there's no reason to get paranoid. It's a done deal. You're sure of it.
It's about to get more fucked up. Listen, right. He was like, my brother has a bunch of had some acreage out there, and so I called my brother, and he said his brother, like they grew up in the same environment. His brother was like helping at-risk youth and shit, and then he went to the street route, you know what I'm saying? And he said, but I told my brother, hey man, me and my girl got in a fight, and I was wondering if I could just go stay at the trailer on your property and clear my mind. And he was like, my brother let me. He said, so when I went out there, I was thinking that I got a loose end, and the loose end's my girlfriend, and right then I decided she needed to die too. So, bro, so he said he goes out there. Swear to God, bro. Rogelio Jones. You can look at TDCJ, put money on his books, send him a book or something. You know, so he said he goes out to the property, digs a grave, digs her grave on the acreage, and he was like, yeah. So I called her to pick me up because I wanted to fuck her one last time. And this is how fucked up in the head this person is, you know. I wanted to fuck her one last time and go eat dinner with her, you know. So they went and ate dinner, and he said he like fucked her at her apartment, and he was like, yeah, when she dropped me back off, I was going to tell her to come inside for a little bit, and I was going to kill her and bury her out there. And by the grace of God, he said that they're like a mile away from the property, and as soon as they're about to be there, Texas Rangers, like they just get surrounded, you know, in the middle of the freeway, and they take him in. He still had the murder weapon in the car on him, you know, because he was going to use it twice. Right. And like, so and he was right. She was a loose end. It was all like, the only thing they had was that car on traffic cam. And of course the car was in her name, but she testified against him. And like, and he got 45 years for it. So just a crazy story. But that was day one, or that was like week one in prison. Like after I've been hanging out with this guy who I'm like, man, this dude's a pretty good dude. I realized, and that just kind of, from that moment, I just kind of stayed to myself. Like, I'm like, hey, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't.
Maybe I shouldn't get close to people.
Yeah, you know, and do my time on my own, you know. So I finally get out of that intake unit, and then like I go to another unit, and then I finally end up, you know, I just bounce around the state. You know, they have like transfer facilities you go to, and I was just doing a year here, 6 months here, a year here, and then finally I made it to a trustee camp. You know, and like everything's typical prison shit, you know, people flopping on K2 and fucking just bullshit. You know, I didn't fuck with any of the prison gangs, any of the politics. I was really the guy, you know, I fucked with everybody. Whether you're white, black, Mexican, whether you got a swastika on you, you're a Crip or you're a Blood. I ain't involved in your politics. So if you're cool, I'll have a conversation with you. It was pretty much like that. But like, nothing too exciting happened in prison. So I ended up making parole after like 4.5 years, right? I come home, you know, rejoin society, and I realized how fucking hard it was, you know, like, cause I'm like, man, I was so dedicated, and I was like, when I go home, I'm going to live my life right. I'm not going to sell no bullshit. I'm not going to do any drugs. Like, I'm going to get a real job, and I'm going to, you know, just take care of my son. And at this time I was still with my now ex-wife, but
what year was this?
I got out December of 2019.
Okay.
And so like I get out, me and her, we, you know, got divorced shortly after I came home, you know, because, you know, when you're gone for 4 years, you know, people grow apart.
Yeah.
And I didn't take anything personal, you know. After I've been to prison, I don't take anything personal anymore. You know, it is what it is. So it's like, and I wasn't fucked up about it. I was just like, cool, you know, I'm just going to get my shit together, move on with life. And then but bro, I can't get a job anywhere. You know, I'm fucking, bro, I had an interview at Walmart. And like they call me in and they talk to me and they're like, oh yeah, you want to work here? I'm like, yeah, I just want a job. And then they're like, okay. And then they end up like sending me an email telling me, oh no, our HR department just noticed that, you know, you have a felony, you can't work here. Same thing happened at UPS. So at this time, like I've got no job. I'm on parole. There's only one thing that I know how to do. I don't have any money to get the jewelry shit popping again. You get $100 when you're out the gate at TDC. I think $100 when you leave, and then they give you $100 the first time you check in with parole. So what do? The only thing I know how to do, I call one of my boys that's on the West Coast. I'm like, hey, are you still fucking around? He's like, I'm not, but one of my boys is. Give him a call. So I call him. He's like, I'll put in a good word for you. Call the dude. He's like, yeah, man, come out, you know, and I'll shoot you 10 pounds. Shoots me 10 pounds, you know. Gone. Because now what the state doesn't know is that they just strengthened me. They turned me into a super plug, because now I got a phone full of people that I've been like, hey, if I fuck around when I get out, give me your number. So I just got tons of people, city to city, all over the state. So it's like, I got all that shit going again, and like shit was going really good. I got to the point where a dude from Washington would drive down 500 pounds, 1,000 pounds. Like shit was good. You know, I was back on top.
What are you telling them you're doing for work? Parole?
Well, I started a CBD business,
right?
Like on paper. And so I was just putting all my money in the CBD, which to be fair, technically, the reason I was so willing to do this is like, because really it was CBD bud. It was just hot CBD. So if I ever got raided or anything, I'd be like, hey, test it. You know, it's CBD. There's no, you know, I just had to make sure the tax shit was on point. But I was selling it for so cheap and in such big bulk, people didn't care. Because, you know, it was like lower grade shit, but it was flying, you know. And so life was going pretty good. You know, like I moved on with life and had saved some money, met a new woman, had a relationship with her. You know, we just had a daughter about 6 months ago or so. And like everything was cool. And but I knew that I didn't want to do that shit forever. You know, I like looked in the mirror one day and like same thing when I look at my son, and I was just like, damn, bro, I don't want you to turn out nothing like me. Like I would do anything in this world for you to be nothing like me, because I think of the shit I put my parents through. I think of the shit that I put my family through. I think about how fucking selfish I've been. And so I was already on the fence of like just changing my ways, right? Like, cause it was just, and it got to the point where like the game was saturated and everybody's hating on each other and people are getting popped and it's just a dirty game. It's not like it was before, you know, when people were, you know, cool and cordial. Now people are shooting and killing and robbing for nothing. So that I guess I needed a moment like that to happen. So this guy, and this just happened like 6-7 months ago, this guy that I have known for years, his mom and dad bought their wedding bands from me and Tyler at the jewelry store. We had done some other plays together. The whole time I was hustling, you know, that hot CBD, I was throwing him pounds, like everything was good. And I'd posted on social media that I had some carts. And
what's carts?
Like the vape carts, THC carts, like the vapor. I had a couple, like, I don't know, 500, 600, 1,000. I just had a bunch of boxes of them stacked up because my boy was just throwing them to me. And like, and I'd taken a picture of his shit, and he's like, yeah, you can take whatever you want if anybody wants them. So right then the guy sees it on Snapchat. He calls me and he's like, hey bro, are you in Dallas or Houston? Because I'll go back and forth. And I said, man, I'm in Houston right now, but I'll be in Dallas later. He was like, shit, bro, I need some of those carts. Can you bring me some? I'm
Are they
like,
expensive?
yeah, I mean, they resell for like, depending on the quality, there's so many different kinds of like diamonds and different clarity levels. But usually like 20 to 40 bucks a piece.
Oh, okay. So this is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I mean
It's
it
just-
adds up.
Yeah, this is $10,000.
Yeah, at least. And so I'm like, yeah, bro, I got you. Just when I get to town later, and I was letting them go for like 10 a pop. So I'm letting people double up. I've always been the type of guy, bro. I'm just trying to make a little 30-40% margins. You can go triple, double, quadruple up because I'm trying to sell you 500 of them or 1,000 of them. I'm not worried about nickel and diamond on the street corner. And so he's like, cool. So I call him as I'm getting back in town, and I'm like, hey, bro, send me your what address you're at. He's like, all right, I'm at a hotel with my girl. I'm gonna send you the address right now. So, and that's a thing.
Sketchy.
Yeah, but it sounds sketchy, but a lot of dudes out there, like,
They don't want to do stuff at their house. So they'll get a
but a
hotel
lot of them motherfuckers just post up at hotels, like go to hotels for the weekend and just fucking leave them a fucking wreck, and then just, just stupid ass shit. Motherfuckers are all dumb. So it's like, I'm like, cool. So it's like a nice ass hotel in a nice area. So I really don't think anything of it. So I pull in, and he's like, yeah, G, you'll see me out back. I'm standing by a red Charger. So like I pull in the parking lot and I see him standing there, and I'm like, what's up, dog? And I shake his hand, and I'm about to just tell him, hey, bro, I'm gonna just front you like 200 of these. I'm in a hurry. I got to get out of here. But before I can tell him anything, he's like, hey, let me hop in the car. My girl's bringing my wallet down. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Keep in mind, I've known this guy for fucking ever. I don't think anything's weird about it. So he gets in the car. And he's like, hey, and cars are going by just casually. He goes, hey, bro, pull in this spot right here. We're in the middle of the road. I'm like, bet. Pull in the spot. And then right then, I see two doors pop open on the Charger right beside me. And these dudes got pusheisties on, which are like the ski masks that have like fuzzy shit on them, and they're all like, dressed up. And I'm just like, man, I asked them right then. I hit the locks on my door and I put my car in reverse, but I still hadn't moved. And I asked him, hey, bro, what the fuck are these guys doing? He was like, shit, I don't know. I look in the rear view and the guys are walking like they're walking to the door of the hotel. So I'm like, right then, something in my gut tells me, I'm like, hey, bro, get the fuck out of my car. He's like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm like, get the fuck out of my car. I'll bring you some of these later. Like, this shit don't feel right. And right as I said that, a dude starts pulling on my door handle on my side and telling me, open the door. And I ask him, bro, who the fuck are these guys? He's like, bro, I don't know, G, I don't know. Then somebody starts pulling on his door handle. They start pulling on his door handle. He leans over and opens the door for him. The dude leans in the car, pulls a pistol out on me, and he's like, bro, come off everything. Come off everything. Come off your watch. Give me the carts. Whatever money you got, come off everything. And hand to God, I looked at him in the eyes and I said, fuck you, bitch. Hit the gas, because I was already in reverse. And plus, I've been around long enough to know, bro, don't pull a gun if you don't plan to use it. And I could just tell by the look in his eyes, he wasn't ready to use that bitch. You know what I'm saying? And like, so I hit the gas. He's trying to keep up with the car, and like he sees I got a duffel bag full of my dirty clothes from Houston on the floor, but he thinks that's where all the weight's at, all the carts. He grabs it and like tries to take it with him. But as I'm turning, and bro, I'm really on some Vin Diesel Fast and the Furious shit. Like my senses are at an all-time high. I'm locked in. I'm reversing, and like my door is open, and he gets caught on the door, like right there in between another car. And like the door just cracks him in his sternum, bends all the way back on him, crushes him between the other car. He falls down. I run over his legs, run over like his lower half of his body. The dude that set me up is in my front seat holding on to the fucking door. The door's flailing open because it's bent all the way back. He's like, what you doing? What, man? And know, I was on that juice. So I fucking just used all my strength and just strong armed him out of the car. So he takes off rolling. And then it turns into a little high speed chase because the dude that was pulling on my door handle, he jumps in the Charger that they were in, and he's like chasing me down. I think it's Lyndon B. Johnson Freeway in Dallas. I can't remember. I'm not really from there. I've just lived there the past year or so. And But I know this guy's not trying to just catch up with me to talk. You know, I know.
Let's talk. Let's work this out.
Yeah, I know that if he catches up with me, it'll be in a hell of gunfire. And look, even though I may not always abide by the rules, I don't play with that having a gun shit.
Yeah.
You know, because that's do not pass go, do not collect $200. Your ass going straight to jail. So it's like I finally outrun them and shit. I make it back home, which is crazy. I realized after I did that, the dude that tried to set me up to rob me, he's been to my house before.
Right.
I've invited him over. So I'm like, but he didn't show up. You know what I'm saying? He knows if I can do that with a car, I'll be like, I could have been prepared myself.
Right.
So nothing turned out into it, right? Other than my car was just fucked up, dented from his body on the front. Like the door didn't shut. Like it was a fucking mess. But, and I guess in retrospect, maybe I should have just been like, hey, bro, take it. But nah, I'm from Texas. Don't tread on me. It's real shit out there, So, but that moment, like something changed, like in my heart. I looked in the mirror after like the shock wore off because I'm like, damn, the betrayal. You know what I'm saying? Like that dude, I had looked at that dude as a friend. I've helped his family out. Like he's needed money. I've given it to him. Like that shit really just fucked me up. And I was just like, bro, I can't keep doing this anymore. I can't keep like living my life like this. What if shit would have went bad and I would have got my ass killed over that shit?
Right.
Over nothing. And then like I couldn't stand my kids growing up without me, and then have that shame of like, well, what happened to your dad? Oh, he got killed in a drug deal gone bad. Like that's not the legacy I'm trying to leave, And so I just made like a promise to myself, and it was just like, I'm done with that shit. I'm done selling drugs. I'm gonna use my go ahead.
I'm sorry. What happened with the guy?
Oh, nothing. I mean, one of them was in the one dude I ran over, I broke his sternum.
Right.
And then the other guy sent me a message, which I'll show it to you, but he's like, that's fucked up. You ran me over. And, but he never reached back. I posted it on my Facebook and everything. I told people the story. And then I was like, here's the text message. He was hitting me up on Facebook Messenger like, damn, bro, I don't know who those guys were. What was that all about? Why did you run me over? What was going, playing games,
right.
But he knew what it was. But also, this dude's like 23, 24. Right. I'm a grown-ass man. Like, bro, I was doing stupid shit like that when I was 23, 24. Like, you're not going to outsmart me. Right. I just let my guard down because I trusted you because we had done business before and you've come to my house and shit. But, yeah, I'm assuming he's fine. I mean, if not, fuck it. Yeah. You reap what you sow. And, but yeah, man, I realized I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to use my ability to, whether it's talk to people about my story or entertain people or just build relationships with people that aren't based around bullshit like selling drugs. Because, man, I really realized when I took a step back, like, I don't have many real friends.
Right.
Most of those people weren't friends. They were just acquaintances. They were just there because I was fronting them all the weed and shit, or if they needed money, they could call me and I'd loan it to them and then they could pay me back 6 months later. Like, there was no friendship there. It was all just relationships based on convenience. So it's like, when I quit hustling, I saw who my real friends were,
right.
And like, I kind of I've been walking the straight and narrow now, and this is when, this is what I was going to tell you. Sometimes life is just real fucked up, and it's out of our control and some of the shit we can control. But like, man, sometimes I just think about, sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, damn, bro, you just threw your whole life away. You could have accomplished so much shit and you just threw your life away fucking with irrelevant ass bullshit, and that's when, and I know this is crazy, and I was kind of just like searching what I was going to do, like with my life, because I didn't know what to do with myself when I'm not fucking involved in selling weed or something. Like, I had to like figure out what, and I looked at, like, I don't pursue the music shit anymore. I had my run with that. But it's like, I was too damn old when I got out of the pen. I'm not like, oh, I'm about to launch my music career again. I was like 30 33, 34 when I got out. I'm like, come on, man. I'm not going to start the grind all over again that I started when I was 19, you know? So it's like that dream kind of perished, you know? And, but man, I'm telling you, that's when I found your podcast, you know, just happenstance, you know what I'm saying? And like, dude, that shit just fucking inspires the shit out of me, you know, that, you know, like,
I knew you were going to do this. You told me you were right.
But I'm just, you know, it's real that people got to know, bro. Like, people think that this is like YouTube bullshit, you know, but it's real shit, bro. Like, you know what it's like when you're in there, you're by your fucking self. You may go 6 months and not get a visit. You may not get a visit at all. You know, you're just happy to get a fucking letter. And then you come out and you try to fucking do shit the right way and the world just fucking shits on you. You know what I'm saying?
Hopeless. You feel hopeless.
100%, bro. And that's how I felt. But watching your shit, I'm like, damn, this fool turned it all around. You know, his situation was 10 times worse than mine. He had a shitload of time. He did 3 times as long as I did. And man, this dude just living the dream. You know what I'm saying? And like telling his story, affecting other people, influencing people, giving people hope and inspiration. And so be that as it may, I wound up on this podcast because I just left a comment on your video. You know, it just left a comment telling you that you were inspiration from felon to felon and you're doing what we all strive to try to do. And, you know, it got to you and here we are now. And that's why I feel like, man, God's got a plan for everybody, you know, and if he didn't, I wouldn't be here, you know? So genuinely, I do thank you for that shit because bro, when I had to give the game up, like I felt so fucking lost. I didn't know what I was going to do. I realized my identity was just tied to like materialistic shit. And like, you gave me hope, bro. So I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you saying it.
And I know that regardless if you think so or not, a lot of other people that feel like they have no other options because whether they did it to themselves or whether the judicial system just shit on them and chewed on them and spit them out and they feel like they got nothing, you're living proof. You know what I'm saying? And so.
No, I get it. So, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, and I get, you know, I hear people say that all the time. So, I mean, and it always, you know, I try and blow it off, you know, but I mean, I get it. So
you're a real motherfucker, man, and you've been nothing but a great dude since I've been here, you know. So I got a lot of respect, and I really appreciate you, for real.
I appreciate you saying it.
Man, everybody feels that way. Except your victims, probably, but everybody else probably feels that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, right now, you know, I'm just trying to get like you, you know, and also I'm going to give you my Instagram. So when the people in the comments come at me talking about like, this guy didn't do jewelry for this, but all the pictures are there, you know, so we can just, you know, snip that right there.
And we talked about this yesterday because we had, you know, we talked for a few hours yesterday. We went to Starbucks and there's it doesn't matter if you have newspapers, video, there's always some asshole, you know, there's always some asshole. That's all bullshit. Fuck off.
Chances are though, that those guys may have been like the way I used to be before I had hope. You know, it's easy to just shit on somebody else that's trying to let go of their old self and metamorphosize into their new self. That's not for everybody. You know what I mean? So I get it. And I really don't care. But, you know, just in case the people that are interested, you know, they can, you know,
check it out. Yeah. And we'll put the link, you know, we put the links in the description, any social media links or anything you want me to put, we put it in the description. What's the name of it?
Well, my IG is just Campo Made It, but I'm doing that series I was telling you about, the Watch This. It's called Watch This, where I'm interviewing the rappers and athlete about their watch collections and just kind of interviewing them. So we're going to go live on that in July. I've got some content already set up. I've already got the YouTube channel made, so I'll send you that link too.
July what?
I'm going to try and get everything up by my birthday, July 25th.
Okay.
As a little present to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but I really feel, man, this is in a roundabout way, I feel reborn. It's like, I'm not interested in that shit that I used to do. It's like, I've already wasted enough time on that. And I feel that, like, God's plan. You can't fight it. Like, there's so many times that I should have, like, died in car wrecks, because I've crashed a couple cars, fucking got shot. One of the times I got held up at gunpoint, but I'm still here and healthy, and my family's good, my kids are good. So, man, I know there's something bigger out there, and you're living proof.
Well, I appreciate it.
Straight
we
up.
were talking about it yesterday. We're like, if you just, we were talking about like what it was like. It wasn't necessarily God. It was just like, it could be God or the universe or whatever you think. But to me, it's like if you're on the right path and you're doing the right things and heading towards it, then it just gets easier.
Straight up.
And I never experienced that until I got out and I started like I didn't know how I would be here. But I knew I wanted to do something, and I just had to work towards it a little bit every day. Mm-hmm. Because you can't make one step and suddenly, boom, it happens. Yeah. It's just like, I just got to kind of do a little incremental little steps towards it. And I don't really know how I'm going to get there. But the moment I kind of started doing that, it's like everything just started kind of falling into place, even though it's taken years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It certainly happened much easier than it should have.
Well, dude, and that's very true, because there were times, like, even after I booked this pod, I was like, man, I don't know. I may call him and tell him I don't want to do it. Like, I don't know if I want to do it, because I guess I was just so afraid of stepping out of my comfort zone. And, and I prayed to God about it, and I asked for him to just send me a sign, and he did, and everything just started to line up. And I've squandered too many of my blessings that God's given me before. Mm-hmm. The times that I've had $300,000-$400,000 in cash, and instead of going and doing something real with that money to where I could take care of my family for a lifetime, I go and fuck it off,
Right.
And it's like, I'm not going to squander any more of my blessings. And fuck. But I feel that, bro, you and Colby extending this opportunity to me was literally a blessing from God. For real. Life-changing shit.
Anything else? You feel good? You feel okay about it?
Yeah, I feel great.
I should have some. Every once in a while, we should have like I need to have a little shelf here
Give me a
for
box of Kleenex.
when I cry. Because we had a video. Remember the guy Hicks? The
dude,
cop?
his was so good.
Oh my god!
Dude.
And then people in the comments were like, "Bro, like you couldn't get this dude some fucking tissue? What's your problem, Cox?" And I was like, "Fuck it." The whole time I was trying not to fucking tear up and start crying. So I definitely need a little shelf right here. I'm gonna put it. I'll have a little box. I'll be like, boom.
Hell yeah! Be ready with it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. We're going to put all the links in the description box. Please share the video. Please consider joining my Patreon. It's like $10 a month. We put special content on Patreon for Patreon members. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you liked the episode. Thank you very much. See ya.
Dude, in Hawk 2, it just came out. She's a pastor's daughter. That's why she went offline.
I knew it.
And you even said, you were like, she probably has well-off religious parents. Damn.